Shen Luan smiled cheerfully as she linked arms with her grandmother. Grandmother, the shopkeeper taught me a recipe that combines pearl powder with some well-measured medicinal herbs. When applied to the face, it revitalizes one's spirit. Would you care to try it? She often visited to share peculiar novelties with the Zhang family, rejuvenating their spirits considerably compared to the previous year. The old maid beside them encouraged, "Old madam, do give it a try. Just look at how lovely third young lady's skin is. It must be quite effective." Unable to resist, Zhang agreed. Shen Luan had her grandmother recline, washed her hands thoroughly, and delicately wiped them dry with a soft towel. She meticulously blended the powder into a fine paste and gently applied it to Zhang's face with a small brush made of wool. "Grandmother, I've noticed that fourth sister seems to be quite unhappy at the Chow household, and it frightens me as this how it is once one is married." Shen Luan's childlike tone elicited a gentle smile from Zhang. "What could be so dreadful? In our family, your mother and your aunts, which one of them has not fared well? Does fourth sister wish for you to assist her husband as promotion?" Zhang remained silent. And Shen Luan continued softly as she brushed. "The other day, when I visited eldest brother to deliver a congratulatory gift, I saw him diligently studying, and I was immensely impressed. He said he intends to enter the Hanlin Academy based on his own merit, honoring the years of hard work he has put in. Compared to Shen Jian, Chao Jin is nothing but trash." The corners of Zhang's mouth softened. "Your eldest brother is indeed ambitious. This is what it means to be a child of the Shen family." With her face now covered in the paste, Shen Luan sat quietly beside her, engaging in conversation. "Shen Yu aspires to achieve prominence in her marital family. I understand her thoughts. She has always been ambitious, unable to tolerate her mother-in-law imposing rules upon her. Thus, she is eager to establish her authority and secure her footing." Zhang spoke languidly. "However, she has overestimated our family and taken a misguided path." Shen Luan's heart sank. What did grandmother mean by that? "I share this with you in hopes that you will remember it. Our Shen family has established itself in Yin City due to the shadows cast by our ancestors. For 3 generations, the Shen family has been composed of scholars, producing several top scholars, gradually etching our name into Yin City. Your father passed away early, and our family once faced tumult, but now the future of the Shen family rests upon your 2 brothers. The rise and fall of our family depends on their shoulders. How ridiculous for Shen Yu to believe that the Shen family possesses extraordinary means." Zhang shook her head with her eyes closed, oblivious to Shen Luan's slightly dazed expression. "But grandmother, I ascended the Marquis of Chongqing, your own brother. Can he not offer assistance? My brother's ascension to nobility was not an easy feat, although the Marquis of Chongqing's household appears resplendent. It is rife with hidden turmoil. Moreover, the Marquis is utterly disconnected from the Hanlin Academy. How could he possibly assist?" But Shen Luan discerned her grandmother's meaning. The Shen family would not assist Shen Yu. Nor could they. Yet, how could the Shen family have helped her in her past life? Later, after Zhang washed off the paste from her face, Shen Luan had someone bring a mirror. "Grandmother, do you not feel that your skin has become considerably smoother?" Zhang touched her cheek and playfully scolded. "You and your myriad ideas. I am of an age where I need not bother with such things. But grandmother, you are still youthful." Shen Luan felt relieved that Zhang would not interfere with her matters. But to her surprise, Zhang broached the topic of her own marriage. "I have discussed this with your mother. You are currently the youngest girl in the household, and given the recent events with the Xiao family, we have decided against seeking a match for you just yet, allowing you to stay home for a few more years to learn from your mother." Shen Luan lowered her eyes, acquiescing to her grandmother and mother's arrangements. Marriage was of little concern to her. She was more eager to witness Chao Jin's discontent, which would surely be quite entertaining. Shortly after Shen Yu's marriage, it would be time for Shen Qing to wed. The atmosphere in the Shen household was markedly different from when Shen Yu had married. Yu Shi was bustling about, making extravagant preparations, which made Lu Shi quite envious. "Sister-in-law, this seems rather unequal treatment. When our Yu girl married, you meticulously accounted for every item purchased. Now you are so extravagant. Do you think the daughters of the second branch are any less Shen family daughters?" Yu Shi had anticipated her complaints and replied, "As for Qing's marriage, all expenses are covered by me, except for the public contributions. If the second sister-in-law feels dissatisfied, why did you not generously contribute to Yu's wedding?" Lu Shi, "Nonsense. She needed to save her money for Shenling." Yu Shi smirked at her silence. Now the second sister-in-law is simply green with envy. Just wait until Luan gets married. The jealousy will be palpable. If anyone in the Shun family is truly wealthy, it would be the third sister-in-law. Both women could foresee that when Shun Luan married, Jane Shi would undoubtedly throw her a grand celebration, rivaling even a princess's wedding. Lu Shi, filled with envy, pursed her lips in disdain. She's just a merchant's daughter. Shun Luan and Shun Qing had always maintained a rather indifferent relationship. Shun Qing, as the legitimate eldest daughter of the Shin family, ought to have received much attention. Yet, due to Shun Luan being the daughter of Shin Yuanxiu, Shun Luan had become the most renowned among the Shin daughters. This stirred jealousy in Shin Ling and Shin Yu. Yet Shin Qing appeared unfazed. Shun Luan remembered how, under Shun Yu's instigation, she had acted foolishly in the past, and Shun Qing had come to her defense, displaying the heart of an elder sister. Now that Shin Qing was to be married, Shun Luan pondered over what gift to send her. Eldest sister, please do not think ill of this gift. I truly could not think of anything else to express my sentiments. The fabric of the small garment was soft and skin-friendly, adorned with embroidery that perfectly matched Shin Qing's taste. Upon seeing it, she was utterly delighted. Third sister, this is very thoughtful of you, I adore it. Shun Ling, who had accompanied her, rolled her eyes. What fine things could third sister possess? How could she not think of a worthy gift for an elder sister, with all that gold and silver? She chooses to give these trifles. Could it be that she is unwilling to part with her riches? Shin Qing regarded her with a slightly stern expression. Second sister, be cautious with your words. The essence of a gift lies in its sentiment. Tell me, what third sister has made by hand far surpasses any mundane object. If she were indifferent, she could have simply sent some trinkets. Yet this garment was crafted with care, stitch by stitch. How could it be compared to anything else? A flicker of impatience crossed Shin Ling's eyes. She was weary of Shun Qing's airs as the elder sister. Feeling she was not much younger, who was she trying to intimidate? Shin Ling tossed the jewelry box on the table. So, are you saying that this hairpin I gifted you is of no significance? That is not my intention. I merely wish for you not to trample upon another's feelings. Fine. Had I known that you would not appreciate it, I wouldn't have bothered to gift it at all. Shin Ling had no desire to linger, raising her chin as she departed. Shin Qing sighed heavily behind her. With such a temperament, how will second sister fare in the future? Shin Luan couldn't help but laugh, which left Shin Qing bewildered. What is making you laugh, third sister? Oh, nothing. I simply find it amusing to see eldest sister worrying over us. It truly embodies the saying, an elder sister is like a mother. Shin Qing froze for a moment, unconsciously touching her face. Do I really appear that old? Ha ha ha. After becoming closer to Shin Qing, Shin Luan discovered that she was indeed a remarkably gentle woman. With a soft temperament, she neither competed nor clamored. Exuding tranquility and grace, truly the epitome of a lady raised in a scholarly family. Previously, third sister had only been close to fourth sister, thus she had little knowledge of how interesting third sister was. Had she known earlier, she would have conversed with her more. Shun Luan merely smiled, internally chastising herself and Shin Yu harshly. Shun Yu was ungracious, and she had been foolish as well. Eldest sister, what kind of family do you wish to marry into? At the mention of this, a hint of shyness appeared on Shun Qing's face. I happened to catch a glimpse of him at a banquet with my mother. He is quite a refined gentleman. Though his official rank may not be high, my mother is not very pleased, however, I believe. I can endure through it with him. In her past life, Shin Qing's husband appeared to hold no remarkable status. Yet each time Shin Luan encountered Shin Qing in the Shin family, she could see a satisfied and serene expression on her face. Shin Luan smiled softly. Eldest sister, I am certain you will find your wishes fulfilled. I wish you tranquility and contentment in the days to come. On the day of Shun Qing's wedding, you sure wept profusely. It was only Zhang who had someone pull her away, for fear of delaying the auspicious hour for Qing. With tears in her eyes, Shun Qing bid farewell to her parents and was assisted out, while Yu Shi, unable to stand from her weeping, insisted on accompanying her to the door. Shun Luan observed this with a sense of nostalgia, wondering if her own mother had been similarly reluctant when she married. She glanced up at Jin Shi, who, upon noticing her red-rimmed eyes, quickly turned her head away. Goodness, I can't even bear to think about how I will cope when it's your turn to marry. Shun Luan laughed as she linked arms with Jin Shi. Then I shall remain unmarried for life to keep you company. Jin Shi turned back to glare at her. That will not do. Shin Luan. This time, the Shin family welcomed numerous guests. and it was only natural for Chao Jin to assist the Shuns. After the bridal sedan was sent off, he volunteered to accompany Shen Yuenda for a leisurely stroll. Ever since Shun Yu returned to her family, Chao Jin had been eagerly awaiting news, hoping to hear delightful tidings from his superior every day. However, as time passed, not a single whisper of news had reached him. Chapter 120. Was the hint not sufficiently clear? He pondered that perhaps it was due to Shun Qing's delayed marriage, but now that this matter had been resolved, should there not be some movement? Uncle, I never anticipated having the fortune to be kin with you. Truly, it is a blessing for me. Please do not worry too much. Miss Shun is both talented and kind-hearted, and I am certain she will endear herself to her in-laws. Chao Jin consistently offered words of comfort and found himself able to converse well with Shen Yuenda. Shen Yuenda expressed his sentiments about marrying off his daughter, and Chao Jin subtly steered the conversation back to himself. Recently, he felt somewhat constrained in his role as an editor, as many of his thoughts could not be fully expressed, and his suggestions often returned without even being glanced at, leaving him rather disheartened. Shen Yuenda perked up. You need not be troubled. The officialdom has always been thus. However, as long as you possess perseverance and talent, you will surely shine like a pearl hidden in dust, and one day, you will be discovered. He leisurely stroked his chin. With your qualifications, I believe, within 5 years, you shall undoubtedly receive a promotion. Chao Jin nearly spat blood. 5 years? Surely, this was a jest. In his previous life, he had reached the position of assistant minister in merely 3 years. Uncle, please do not mock me. If only I could be granted an opportunity, I assure you, I would not disappoint you. Shen Yuenda appeared quite pleased, sensing that Chao Jin valued his opinion and held him in high regard. Observing the contented smile on Shen Yuenda's face, Chao Jin felt a surge of impatience. Was his hint not sufficiently clear? Had he not suggested thoroughly enough? He was already Shun's son-in-law. What exactly was the Shun family still hesitating about? Shun Luan's days at home began to settle into tranquility. She temporarily paid little mind to Shen Yu and Chao Jin, engaging in activities she enjoyed and relishing the leisurely pace of life. Shen Wanchao had entered the Hanlin Academy as an editor, a position that had taken Chao Jin 5 years to attain. Shen Luan was confident in Shen Wanchao and did not neglect her daily calligraphy practice. Miss Qin is here. Shu Shu? Shen Luan set down her brush and quickly stepped outside to greet her. Upon seeing her, Qin Shu rushed over, embracing her. Luan, I missed you so much. The two sat down, and Qin Shu pouted. Previously, with all the affairs at your home, I felt it inappropriate to disturb you. Now, at last, things have calmed down. Shen Luan listened with a smile as Qin Shu spoke, her friend lamenting. My father and second brother are both away, and the house feels as if a bone has been removed. Even mother has become strict with third brother. Deep down, she worries for their safety but cannot express it. Uncle Qin and brother Qin are both capable individuals. Perhaps in a few days, a letter assuring their safety will arrive. Do not fret too much. Qin Shu merely wanted to vent her grievances but quickly brightened up again. Luan, the imperial concubine summoned me to the palace for a chat. Will you accompany me? Shen Luan was taken aback. Are you jesting? How could I accompany you when the princess has summoned you? Of course you can. The princess is well aware of our close friendship. She mentioned you last time. I thought having you with me would make it more lively. Zheng Gufei. Shen Luan recalled the seemingly unattainable figure. And although their time together had been brief, she indeed seemed to be quite approachable. Qin Shu giggled, tugging at Shen Luan's sleeve, lowering her voice. Actually, I have already responded to the princess on your behalf. The day after tomorrow, you must accompany me, Shen Luan. She took a couple of sips of water to calm her nerves. Is this true? It is true. Shen Luan felt a headache coming on. Tapping Qin Shu lightly on the head, such a significant matter, and you agreed before mentioning it to me? Entering the palace. I must prepare. Oh, it's nothing. They say Zheng Guifei is exceptionally kind, warm, and amiable. There is no need for preparation. I simply wish for her to meet you. I am certain she will like you. Madame Jean was equally astonished upon learning that Shen Luan would be entering the palace the day after tomorrow. So sudden? Fortunately, we have prepared new garments and accessories for you. You will be entering the palace alongside Miss Qin. That is reassuring. She often visits the palace to converse with the ladies, so having her there will provide some comfort. However, this solo entrance to the palace made Shen Ling envious, prompting her to make a special visit to express her disdain. Third sister, you are becoming more ambitious. In the past, You were reluctant to attend palace banquets. Yet now you seek opportunities to enter the palace. Are you hoping to leave a lasting impression on the noblewomen? What a pity. Did grandmother not say that you must remain at home for a few more years? No matter how much effort you put in, it is of no use. Shun Luan could not fathom Xin Ling's train of thought. How could she twist such a simple matter into something so convoluted? Second sister, I believe you would be better suited to writing those tales. Your talent is wasted otherwise. How is it that you are so skilled? Xin Luan smiled gently. Did not grandmother teach us not to judge others by our own standards? I do not possess the same mindset as you, second sister. Xin Luan, I am still your elder sister. How can you speak to me in such a manner? Xin Luan looked innocently at her. Have I said anything wrong? People often say that how you treat others reflects how they will treat you. I am merely mirroring your way of speaking. Why then are you angry? Xin Ling glared at her. But Xin Luan stood her ground, no longer needing to feign politeness in front of Xin Yu. She had no intention of being bullied. Very well, I shall observe how this attitude serves you in the future. So, it turns out you have been pretending all along. It is a wonder how grandmother was fooled by you. Xin Luan casually touched the sleeve of her new garment, responding nonchalantly, second sister still does not grasp my meaning. Grandmother is kind. I naturally wish to honor her sincerely. As for what fate awaits me, it need not concern you, second sister. The next day, Shun Luan dressed elegantly, stepping out amidst Shun Ling's envious gaze. Upon meeting Qin Shu, her friend exclaimed in admiration, Luan, you have become even more beautiful. I often find myself lost in your looks. How is it that you are so enchanting? Shun Luan chuckled, squeezing her hand. It has merely been a passage of time. We are so familiar now, there is no need for such formality. Qin Shu playfully nudged her. What they say is true. The two young women continued their lively chatter until they reached the palace gates. Where a palace attendant guided them inside, as Zheng Guifei summoned them, they did not need to first pay their respects to the empress, heading directly to Zhang Guifei's palace. Foaming Palace, Shun Luan gazed at the plaque inscribed with the emperor's own hand, feeling a sense of unease. Indeed, the emperor favored this concubine above all others. However, upon entering, it was not the opulence she had imagined, but rather an exquisite elegance. While they were announced, Shun Luan discreetly surveyed her surroundings. The courtyard was adorned with numerous orchids, all meticulously cared for. Although she could not identify every variety, she could tell that these orchids were far from ordinary. Your Highness has summoned you. Please enter. Shun Luan withdrew her gaze and followed Qin Shu inside, both of them bowing in unison. A soft, melodious voice rang out, Rise. It is quite a task for you both to come to the palace to converse with me. Shun Luan stood, and beside her, Qin Shu chirped, It is our fortune to accompany your highness. This is Shun Luan, my close friend whom I often speak of. Shun Luan quickly bowed again, raising her head to see Zheng Guifei smiling gently and nodding at her. I have seen you before and often hear Qin Shu mention you. You need not be overly formal with me. Please sit. The palace maids brought in embroidered cushions and served fragrant tea and pastries, filling the room with a pleasant aroma. Zheng Guifei waved her hand, and the attendants immediately bowed their heads and silently exited. Once they were alone, Qin Shu immediately brightened up, spotting her favorite pastries among the offerings and exclaiming, Thank you, Your Highness. The pastries here are something you cannot find outside the palace. I have missed them terribly. Zheng Guifei smiled at her, then indulge yourself. When you leave the palace, I shall have someone prepare some for you to take. Thank you, Your Highness. Qin Shu unreservedly enjoyed the pastries and called over to Xin Luan. Luan, there is also your favorite pine nut milk pastry. You must try it. Xin Luan glanced at the platter of pastries before her, noticing 5 or 6 exquisite varieties, each more enticing than the last. Strangely, these pastries were all items she adored, but the palace had prepared them with even greater finesse, presented in ornate vessels that were a feast for the eyes. It seemed not to be mere coincidence that a nameless individual like herself received such thoughtful attention from Zhang Guifei. No wonder Qin Shu praised her so highly. Shun Luan picked up a small delicacy, gently biting into it while covering her mouth with a cloth. The rich and delicate flavor spread across her palate, so delectable that her eyes sparkled with delight, prompting her to hastily shove more into her mouth, chewing with small bites. Once outside the palace, such treats would be unattainable. In the presence of noble consort Jin, Shun Luan felt her initial nervousness dissipate gradually. She had always believed that noble consort Zhen would be a person easy to get along with and remarkably gentle. Yet she had not anticipated such a level of amiability. Qin Shu displayed no signs of restraint, which seemed to be the norm in the presence of noble consort Zhen, allowing Xin Luan to relax further. Whenever noble consort Zhen posed a question, she could respond with ease. Your Highness, Luan is merely being modest, I must tell you. She is quite impressive. Previously, she concealed her talents, but in truth, her calligraphy is exquisite. And her needlework is second to none. Qin Shu boasted proudly to noble consort Zhen, while Xin Luan shot her several meaningful glances to no avail. Noble consort Zhen appeared genuinely intrigued. Is that so? She said with a gentle smile directed at Xin Luan. The purse at your waist looks quite unique. Did you embroider it yourself? Xin Luan hurriedly untied the purse and handed it over. Her face tinged with embarrassment. I merely stitched it casually at home. I hope your Highness does not find it laughable. Noble consort Zhen held the water-red purse, examining it closely with an admiring smile. Indeed, as Shu Shu mentioned, your embroidery skills are exceptional. You are quite talented. Your Highness overpraises me, Shan Luan humbly replied, yet noticed that noble consort Zhen continued to admire the purse. The intricate patterns are indeed exquisite. I have grown weary of the elaborate designs within the palace, and I find this simple yet lively style increasingly appealing. Qin Shu popped a piece of fruit into her mouth, carelessly chiming in. Luan, why not gift this purse to the princess? Xin Luan was taken aback. But this is merely something I stitched haphazardly. How could I possibly present it to your Highness? Oh, come now. I've said it before, there's no need for such formality with her Highness. If she likes it, that is all that matters. Wouldn't you agree, your Highness? Noble consort Jin covered her mouth with a light laugh. Shu Shu is correct. I truly do like it, however. I wonder if Miss Shun would be willing to part with it? Of course. I would be willing, Shun Luan replied, somewhat overwhelmed, astonished that her humble purse had caught the eye of the noble consort. Noble consort Zhen graciously accepted the purse. I cannot simply take your gift without offering something in return. Xiao Yu, go to the storeroom and fetch some bird's nest supplements for Miss Shun to take with her upon leaving the palace. Qin Shu tilted her head. Your Highness, why not reward Luan with something else? She lacks nothing in terms of supplements. Madame Shin never deprives her. Is that so? It appears that Miss Shun shares a close bond with her mother? Shun Luan smiled gently. Although I am not her biological child, she treats me as her own, raising me with great care. I can never repay her kindness. A dutiful child indeed, noble consort Jin remarked, her eyes softening. After a moment's thought, she continued, in that case, Xiao Yu, exchange it for that newly acquired set of writing implements. Shu Shu mentioned your calligraphy is commendable. Perhaps this will allow you to refine your skills further. After a while, a palace maid entered to announce the arrival of the 9th prince. Shun Luan glanced at Qin Shu, silently inquiring whether they should retreat. However, Qin Shu showed no inclination to leave, continuing to eat and drink as if the prince's presence held no significance for her. Moments later, the 9th prince entered, first greeting noble consort Zhen respectfully. Shan Luan rose to curtsy, but the 9th prince waved his hand dismissively. There is no need for such formalities. I am grateful for your presence in the palace to converse with my mother. His gaze shifted casually to Qin Shu, who had simply nodded her head in acknowledgement. Having risen without much ceremony, but you are different. You came to the palace solely to enjoy the delicacies, did you not? Look, several plates are already empty. Qin Shu shot him a glare. The food is provided by her Highness. What concern is it of yours? I fear that if you continue this way, you will soon find yourself needing new garments, which would be such a waste. Qin Shu bit her lip, turning her head to look pitifully at noble consort Zhen. Your Highness, do you see how he is? Noble consort Zhen maintained a gentle smile, akin to a soft breeze on a spring day, mingling with the faint fragrance of blooming flowers. Ling, do not be impolite. The 9th prince immediately wiped the teasing expression off his face and smiled, apologizing to Qin Shu. She remained aloof, ignoring him, which made Shan Luan stifle a laugh. Noble consort Zhen observed this, softly commenting, these two children have always been mischievous. I had hoped they would mature, yet they still revert to their playful ways upon meeting. A tinge of envy flickered in Shan Luan's eyes as she reflected on her own upbringing, where sibling bonds had always felt distant. She had once thought that her heartfelt affection for Shun Yu was unreciprocated. and her once aloof brother had only recently begun to show signs of improvement. Shu Shu and the ninth prince appear to share a wonderful relationship. Shan Luan sighed, glancing at noble consort Zhan, who seemed to harbor a hint of melancholy. She couldn't help but wonder if she had inadvertently touched upon an unhappy memory for the noble consort. Meanwhile, the ninth prince playfully urged Qin Shu to join him in a game of throwing pots, boasting that his skills had improved and he would no longer lose to her. Shan Luan chuckled softly, knowing well that Qin Shu's temperament could not withstand such provocation. True to her instincts, as soon as Shan Luan's laughter faded, Qin Shu was already ready to take up the challenge. You said it? With Her Highness as our witness, should you lose, no excuses allowed. Qin Shu turned to Shan Luan, a triumphant glint in her eye. Luan, wait until I win that jade piece from him. We can sell it and buy candy. The ninth prince wrinkled his nose. That is, of course, if you manage to win. The room was too small for their antics, and without further ado, they dashed out into the courtyard to engage in their playful competition. The palace maids opened the windows, allowing noble consort Zhan to observe their antics from within. Shan Luan found herself slightly bewildered, as only she and noble consort Zhan remained in the room, creating an oddly peculiar atmosphere. I heard Shu Shu mention that your calligraphy is impressive. I have a scroll of scriptures. It is not lengthy. Would you be willing to transcribe it for me? Shan Luan raised her head, readily agreeing without hesitation. I would be delighted to assist. It is far better than idling here. By the intricately carved window, the palace maid deftly unfurled the paper. Shan Luan stood at the table, inhaling the familiar scent of ink, which brought her a sense of tranquility. She lifted the brush, her posture graceful and dignified, gently adjusting her sleeves before beginning to write. Practicing calligraphy had become an essential part of her daily routine, and she had grown so accustomed to it that picking up the brush allowed her to immerse herself fully, focusing entirely on the tip. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a golden glow upon her hair. Her bright eyes sparkled with clarity and calmness, fixated on the paper before her. The sheer intensity of her concentration was enough to captivate anyone who laid eyes upon her. Outside, the occasional sound of Qin Shu's laughter echoed, while inside, the atmosphere was tranquil, filled with a delicate fragrance that lingered, making time seem reluctant to pass. The scroll of scriptures was indeed not lengthy, and Shan Luan completed the transcription effortlessly when she lifted her gaze. She found noble consort Zhan watching her, instinctively returning a smile. Noble consort Zhan's smile deepened. I refrained from disturbing your work earlier, but your calligraphy is indeed worthy of admiration. There are not many young ladies today who dedicate themselves to perfecting their script with such diligence. I have scarcely encountered anyone who writes as beautifully as you do. Noble consort Zhan instructed Xiao Yu to carefully store the transcribed scriptures, and soon a basin of water was brought in for her to wash her hands. Without the slightest hint of pretense, she handed Shan Luan a clean cloth. As the competition outside continued, noble consort Zhan engaged Shan Luan in casual conversation. Previously, you mentioned your engagement with the Xiao family was to be annulled. What is the current status? Shan Luan was surprised that noble consort Zhan remembered this matter. She responded honestly, the engagement has been dissolved. It was merely a jest between our fathers and held no weight. Annulling it is beneficial for all parties involved. I had thought the Xiao family a reasonable choice, yet it cannot be forced if you do not feel inclined. Noble consort Zhan reclined against the soft pillow. I have heard that the Shen family has previously married off 2 daughters. Do you feel a sense of reluctance with your sisters departing? Shan Luan immediately recalled how her elder sister had called her over before her wedding, earnestly advising her to take care of herself at home, which made Shan Luan feel the warmth of true sisterly affection. I do feel quite reluctant, but my elder sister is such a gentle person. I am certain she will lead a wonderful life. All I can do is keep her in my thoughts. And what of your younger sister? Shan Luan's expression momentarily froze, her smile dimming slightly. Each person has their own fate. My fourth sister has always been quite opinionated. I trust she does not require my concern. As she regained her composure, she found it curious that noble consort Zhan would inquire about the Shen family. However, the noble consort had already shifted the conversation to other topics. After a while, Qin Shu burst in exuberantly, her cheeks flushed and holding a piece of sheep-fat jade. Luan, look, am I not impressive? Shan Luan instinctively took out a cloth to wipe the sweat from her forehead. Impressive indeed. Are you hot? You should drink some water first. Qin Shu eagerly accepted a full cup from Shen Luan, her excitement unabated. Did I not tell you? My skills in throwing pots have improved. I feel that even without air gu, I need not fear sand gu. The ninth prince sauntered in behind her, muttering that was merely luck. With a dismissive huff, the ninth prince, Yuan Ling, remarked that when one lacks skills, they resort to attributing their victories to mere luck. He resolved to inform his elder brother upon his return that he was inferior even to him, and that he should increase his training. His lips curled in disdain as his gaze inadvertently fell upon Shen Luan, and he was momentarily taken aback. Shen Luan, with a smile dancing in her eyes, gently grasped Qin Shu's hand, meticulously adjusting the disheveled sleeves with an unhurried grace. In response to Qin Shu's exuberant boasting, she merely nodded softly, her eyes radiating a warmth akin to a gentle breeze. Yuan Ling lowered his gaze, swiftly suppressing any unusual expression before lifting his head once more, donning the guise of an innocent youth, laughing with carefree abandon, as they prepared to leave the palace. Consort Jin instructed her maidservants to pack 2 generously filled bags of delicacies for Qin Shu and Shen Luan. Shen Luan felt a tinge of anxiety. Was it customary to both consume and take away gifts after a single visit to the palace? Noticing her unease, Yuan Ling chuckled, assuring her that there was no need for modesty, pointing out how Qin Shu would gladly accept another bag if offered. Qin Shu shot him an exasperated look, snatching Shen Luan's share and placing it in her hands, declaring it a gift from the consort that could not be declined. Yuan Ling was nearly trembling with laughter at the scene. After bidding farewell to Consort Jun, the ninth prince, in a moment of whimsy, suggested that he accompany them out of the palace. Along the way, he and Qin Shu engaged in playful banter, filling the air with lively chatter. While Shen Luan walked behind, quietly smiling, "Miss Shun, I've often heard your name mentioned. My father speaks highly of your father, praising him as an exceptional talent and loyal minister of our dynasty. Alas, I lament not having had the fortune to meet him." Shen Luan simply smiled in response. "I too lack that fortune. I have never laid eyes upon my father. Forgive me for bringing up such a sorrowful topic. Even my father finds it deeply distressing. He awaits your father's return, yet has only received the grim tidings. Thankfully, the Shao family returned you to the Shen family while you were still an infant. It can be considered a stroke of divine providence." The Shao family? Shen Luan paused, momentarily taken aback. Was it indeed the Shao family who brought me back? Did you not know? I had no idea, she admitted. This was a painful subject for the Shen family, seldom discussed for fear of stirring the sorrow of her grandmother. She had only heard that a surviving servant of the Shen family had desperately protected her during her return, yet it turned out to be the Shao family? Chapter 122. The situation unfolded thus. "What purpose do you have in bringing this up with Alwan?" Qin Shu exclaimed, forcefully pushing Yuan Ling aside and wrapping her arm around Shen Luan's shoulder. "It is all in the past. Must you dredge up such painful memories?" Yuan Ling immediately apologized to Shen Luan. "It was my fault. Please do not hold it against me, Miss Shun." Shen Luan shook her head, indicating that she bore no ill will, though a strange feeling lingered within her. She had thought the Shen family had no ties to the Shao family, yet it appeared there was more to the story. Upon returning to the Shen residence, Jin Shi, her mother, felt a sense of relief upon seeing her safely home. However, upon noticing the various gifts she had brought back, Jin Shi's expression turned quizzical. "It seems you return from the palace laden with rewards each time. Is Consort Jun particularly generous in her gifts?" "The consort has a serene disposition. Perhaps we are simply well matched," Shen Luan replied as she distributed the delicacies among her family. When she sent the treats with the servant, she learned that her elder sister, Shen Ling, had refused entry to the servants. Shen Luan shrugged it off. "If my second sister looks down upon these gifts, let them take them away." The servants gladly accepted the offerings, and Shen Luan personally delivered some treats to Zhang Shi. Upon arrival, she found Zhang Shi's face smeared with a paste, yet to be washed off. The old lady's maid, laughing, remarked that the old matriarch had grown fond of the remedy Shen Luan had suggested, applying it every few days. "You should see, Miss Shen, the old lady's complexion has improved significantly since you last saw her." Once Zhang Shi had cleaned her face, Shen Luan bestowed compliments upon her and presented the delicacies, deliberately selecting those her grandmother favored. "Please enjoy." The maid chimed in, "Look at our third young lady, always thinking of the old matriarch, truly reminiscent of the time when the third master was young." A fleeting shadow of sadness crossed Zhang Shi's eyes, which Shun Luan noticed. She moved closer, reassuring her, in the future, I shall be as filial as my father, devotedly honoring you. Curiously, she inquired, was it indeed the Xiao family who returned me? Zhang Shi's expression faltered momentarily before returning to calm. Why do you ask this? Has that rascal from the Xiao family said something? Nothing. I am merely curious. Zhang Shi huffed. Indeed, it was the Xiao family who returned you. Because of this, the Xin family holds a debt of gratitude to the Xiao family, yet we never intended to take advantage of them. Shun Luan was taken aback. Grandmother, please do not be upset. She turned to the maid. What has come over her? The maid sighed. Miss, it is best not to mention it. The old lady sent a letter to the Xiao family to discuss your marriage to young Master Xiao. But the response from the Xiao family, after much hesitation, she could not bring herself to continue. Zhang Shi's tone was stern as she interrupted. What purpose is there in revisiting this? The Xin family owes a debt of gratitude to the Xiao family. We will find an opportunity to repay it in due time. We have not fallen so low as to seek their favor. Shun Luan, sensing the gravity of the topic, refrained from further inquiries and swiftly changed the subject. Managing to elicit laughter from Zhang Shi.as for the rest, there would be opportunities to discuss it later. When the Guangyang Marquis' residents received the first letter from home, Qin Shu could hardly contain her excitement and rushed to share the news with Shun Luan. My mother is overjoyed. The entire family has breathed a sigh of relief. At long last, we have news. Qin Shu chattered incessantly, detailing the various gifts sent back home along with the letter, exclaiming how inconsiderate it was for them to prioritize fruits unavailable in Yinqing over their correspondence. She pouted in indignation, while Xian, holding a plate of freshly washed, succulent fruits, placed them delicately on the table. Shun Luan's eyes widened in surprise, and before she could signal Xian, Qin Shu exclaimed, Alwan, how come you have these fruits too? Shun Luan hesitated, wondering if she would believe it was something purchased in Yinqing. Qin Shu's sharp mind, ever perceptive, was already sensing something amiss. Shun Luan felt a headache coming on. The situation was unfolding thus. Qin Shu seized a fruit and bit into it, propping her head up with one hand and shaking her leg. It's all right, take your time. I'm not in a hurry, ouch. Why do these fruits taste sweeter than the ones from my home? Earlier, Shun Luan had mentioned having something from the door, and without a second thought, she had ordered it brought in. It was not unusual for items to arrive from the shop and the estate. Upon discovering a basket of fruits, Shun Luan had instructed Xian to take them away, while another box awaited her attention. Upon opening it, she realized the sender was Qin Gu. The box contained an assortment of odd trinkets, most of which Shun Luan had never seen before. She found them rather fascinating. Inside was also a letter. The letter. Shun Luan had yet to open it when she heard Qin Shu's arrival. Xian, upon hearing of Qin Shu's presence, thought her young mistress would share any delightful treasures with her friend, which is why she had brought the fruits over. This is quite a normal occurrence. I assent it? Why are you grinning like that? Shun Luan frowned, wishing to correct Qin Shu's crooked grin. Qin Shu let out an eerie laugh. No, I find it rather unusual. The servants had long been sent away. And Qin Shu leaned against the table. My second brother, you have no idea how he usually is. He's polite to family, but with outsiders, even I feel like punching him sometimes. Qin Shu squinted. I'm close with several young ladies, yet I've never seen him send gifts to anyone else. That is only because of the kindness shown to me by Qin Bo. Enough of that. Qin Shu scoffed. Does he truly care about my father's feelings? If he did, our family would have been at peace for many years. My mother and I worry about them getting into fights without anyone to intervene. Shun Luan remained silent, pondering the perplexing dynamic between the Marquis and his son. So, your second brother actually went out of his way to send you gifts. Qin Shu's eyes sparkled with mischief. Did he write you a letter too? What did it say? I haven't read it yet. Qin Shu jumped up, her face alight with an odd smile. He really did write one? Shun Luan pressed her lips together, realizing she had been too naive. However, Qin Shu showed no inclination to pry further into the content of the letter. Yet her eyes gleamed with an unusual brightness, leaving Shun Luan restless, unsure of what thoughts were swirling in her mind. How about we read it together? It's merely a note to assure each other of our safety. Shun Luan pretended to reach for the letter, only for Qin Shu to grab her arm. No, absolutely not. That essay letter from my second brother to you. I want to look if I do. And he finds out, I'll be in trouble. Qin Shu's laughter was peculiar. rubbing her cheek against Shen Luan's shoulder. Alwan, why didn't I think of this earlier? This is wonderful, simply marvelous. Shen Luan pushed her head away. What are you talking about? Qin Shu returned, as if she were glued to her surroundings, casually remarking that her second brother indeed had good taste. Chuckling to herself, rest assured, I shall assist him, Shen Luan. Taking a deep breath, her gaze fell upon the fruits on the table, her eyes brimming with a murderous intent. What is the meaning of this? Qin Shu resolutely refused to accompany Shen Luan in reading the letter. And before leaving, she mysteriously claimed she would keep their secrets. Shen Luan felt a surge of anger, a strong impulse to shout. What had she done that required secrecy? Watching Qin Shu depart with a smug expression, Shen Luan retrieved the letter, her face fierce as she opened it, swiftly drawing out the sheets within 0.2 pages filled with characters, along with another piece of paper that had been folded multiple times. Shen Luan recognized Qin Ji's handwriting, characterized by the unique vigor and sharpness of a martial artist. Yet, the content pinned in such a striking script was surprisingly trivial and languid. The letter was filled with mundane tales. Amusing observations from his journey, descriptions of peculiar landscapes, delightful flavors he had encountered, and customs unseen in Yin City. He had also listed various trinkets he sent, some with peculiar uses. Without realizing it, Shen Luan became engrossed in the two large sheets. As though she had accompanied him on these experiences, setting the letter down, she turned a cup from the table and sipped water delicately. How fascinating! Although she had never left Yin City in her 2 lifetimes, it felt as if she had embarked on a grand journey, with those unseen local customs vividly presented before her. Unable to resist, Shen Luan read it again, and the scenes her imagination conjured became increasingly vivid and three-dimensional, making her yearn to fly over and verify if it was as she envisioned. Seriously stowing the letter away, Shen Luan unfolded the heavily creased paper, but upon glancing at it, she froze. How could Qin Gu, amidst his travel-worn journey, have the leisure to sketch a self-portrait? How idly foolish could one be? At a glance, she recognized the likeness on the paper as Qin Gu, the expression unmistakable, especially those eyes, as if they could penetrate the paper and reveal his true self. After gazing for a moment, Shen Luan quickly averted her gaze, and even then, she merely folded the drawing and let out a sigh of relief. Why did he send this to himself? Who would want to see his portrait? Shen Luan felt speechless, biting her lip as she tucked the drawing away separately in the cabinet, pressing it under the books. Hidden securely. When he returns, someone should deliver it back to him. Chapter 123. A series of displeasures in the Chow household. The matriarch, old lady Chow, began her day by bellowing for her daughter-in-law to tend to her. What daughter-in-law does not early on establish her place before her mother-in-law? The Shen family is a prominent household, yet they seem oblivious to such decorum, requiring me, the mother-in-law, to personally remind them. Are they not afraid of being the subject of ridicule? After years of being a daughter-in-law, old lady Chow had long awaited the day when she could have a daughter-in-law attending to her every need. Now, seeing Shen Yu still maintaining her pride at home, she felt a deep dissatisfaction. The old folks back home all said that when a new daughter-in-law enters, she must be firmly guided to instill a sense of fear, ensuring obedience in the future. Inside the room, Shen Yu's face darkened as she slammed down her comb and stormed out. Mother, you had me attend to your sleep last night, and I returned home at midnight. What time is it now? Do you wish to wear me to death? Oh, what do you mean by that? What's wrong with waking up a little later? You are becoming quite spoiled, thinking you still live as a daughter in the Shen family? Old lady Chow raised her chin defiantly, shaking her legs, go outside and ask, which daughter-in-law does not dutifully serve her mother-in-law? What are you so precious? Just look at the items you brought from your family and then at yourself. Only our Chow family is benevolent enough to take you in, and you are not even grateful. Shen Yu could hardly contain her fury, wishing to grab the broom by her side and strike old lady Chow. What nonsense is this? What is your expression? Am I wrong in what I say? Go look in the mirror. Stepping outside, you could frighten a child to tears. Now, only the Chow family can provide you a home. And you present this attitude? Shen Yu's expression darkened further, and she suddenly let out a cold laugh, ignoring old lady Chow entirely as she returned to her room. Old lady Chow shouted after her. But Shen Yu turned a deaf ear, even questioning whether her previous compliance had been a mistake. After a day of turmoil, chaos reigned in the Chow household. and no matter how much old lady Chow demanded Shun Yu's attention, Shun Yu remained indifferent, infuriating her to the point of explosion, as she declared that all of Yin City would know that the Shun family had produced such an ill-mannered and uncultured daughter. Chow Jin, having worked tirelessly all day, returned home only to find no respite, a dull ache forming in his head. Old lady Chow incessantly complained to him, her shrill voice ringing in his ears. At this moment, Chow Jin found himself missing Shun Luan from his previous life immensely, and no matter how weary he was from the outside world, upon returning home, he could enjoy peace. Shun Luan managed the household impeccably, rarely bringing conflicts to his doorstep. Even when there were a few instances, she would simply concede. You should never have married such a calamity. There are so many good girls in Yen City, with power and influence. What is she, after all? As old lady Chow continued her tirade, Chow Jin abruptly stood up, his face devoid of expression as he walked towards his room. Old lady Chow's heart leapt with joy, yelling after him to teach Shin Yu a lesson. This is the Chow family, and such insolence cannot be tolerated. Entering his room, he found Shin Yu sitting there, regarding him with a peculiar expression. Her scarred face, illuminated by the flickering candlelight, appeared unnervingly sinister, making even Chow Jin reluctant to look her way. Yet once, Shun Luan too bore scars, and he still found her beautiful. Have you shared your grievances? Then I need not elaborate further. Shin Yu curled one corner of her mouth, her expression growing darker. She mentioned wanting to show Yin City what the Shun family's daughter was like. I did not stop her. Let her go. The more chaos, the better, as it would reveal how the Chow family treats its daughters-in-law. Shin Yu lightly raised her eyebrows, unafraid to admit that when it comes to feigning pity to elicit sympathy, I have never lost to anyone, so you need not doubt me. She smiled softly. I have nothing to fear. I am already like this. What could be more terrifying? However, Chow Jin, if rumors of the Chow family mistreating their daughter-in-law spread, will you still be able to remain in the Hanlin Academy? Shin Yu precisely stepped on Chow Jin's soft spot. He cared deeply for power and influence. How could he tolerate even the slightest error? Watching Chow Jin's face shift between emotions, Shin Yu felt a sense of satisfaction. Exactly. Why should she be the only one to suffer? If someone else makes her unhappy, she shall ensure they taste the same bitterness. Shin Yu giggled as she laid down to rest, while outside, old lady Chow awaited her comeuppance, and Chow Jin's agitation swelled, nearly engulfing him. Why, in this new life, does everything seem to go awry? What exactly went wrong? Having married Shin Yu, the anticipated assistance from the Shin family was nowhere in sight. Leaving Chow Jin in a state of utter frustration, he set his sights on the third prince, intending to warn him to be wary of Qin Gu, lest he return and become a hidden threat. However, Chow Jin's status was too lowly to even reach the third prince. Chow Jin felt like a trapped beast, the constant disparity gnawing at his heart. With every matter, he could not help but compare it to his previous life, and the results only fueled his anxiety and resentment. Old lady Chow awaited Shin Yu to apologize, but received no response, prompting her to seek out Chow Jin for another round of complaints. Little did she know, as soon as she spoke a few words, she was met with Chow Jin's rebuttal. Mother, can you not take a break? Am I not troubled enough already? Must you create chaos at home to feel satisfied? Old lady Chow was momentarily taken aback, her expression shifting rapidly. What is happening? As a mother-in-law, am I not allowed to demand anything from her? No family follows such a rule. Back home, which daughter-in-law did not endure this? Why can't she? Old lady Chow plopped down on the floor, wailing to the heavens, lamenting her miserable fate. How could my life be so wretched? Having raised you with such care, now that you have married, you forget your mother. My life is so hard. Chow Jin felt his face grow pale, suppressing his anger as he attempted to placate her, his mind already concocting plans to send her back. However, old lady Chow was already prepared, claiming she had sold their old home solely to support Chow Jin, causing him to choke on his words. Dear son, I assume the Shin family quite wealthy. Does Shin Yu not possess any shops or land? If you do not want me to establish rules for her, then find me something to do, perhaps manage a shop or something, so I can experience the aura of a wealthy family's wife. Old lady Chow's dissatisfaction with Shan Yu had begun with her dowry, which had fallen far below her expectations. I have heard that the third daughter of the Shin family, even before marriage, already possesses several flourishing shops. with gold flowing into the Shun residence like a stream. As a daughter, I refused to believe Shunyu has nothing. Old Lady Chow was convinced that Shunyu was simply hiding her wealth, her mind turning to thoughts of extracting it for her own. Upon hearing Shan Luan's name, Chao Jian felt a tremor in his heart. Shan Luan is well aware of her capabilities in her previous life. The Jin family bestowed upon her numerous properties as part of her dowry, all of which ultimately became the possessions of the Chao family. Shan Luan managed them exceptionally well, never once worrying about her livelihood. Even now, she remains competent, and her rapport with the Jin family appears to have improved significantly, as they surprisingly entrusted her with the management of their shop so early. Yet, the profits do not find their way into her hands. Have you not already perused the list of dowries Shunyu received? There is no mention of any shop or farmland, so why marry her? If you must marry, the third young lady would be a far better choice. Chao Jin's heart twisted in turmoil. Did he not desire this? Oh, has he only recently wed and already has his eyes set on my third sister? The Chao family truly possesses insatiable appetites. As Chao Jian turned around, he caught sight of Shunyu leaning against the doorframe, her face adorned with a mocking smile. Before the old lady Chao could utter another word, Chao Jin interrupted her, eager to observe what schemes this woman might conjure next. Shunyu's visage, illuminated by the sunlight, accentuated the ghastly scars upon her face. She raised her hand to caress the uneven surface, a swell of anger rising within her. However, the notion of sisters sharing a husband might also be seen as a romantic tale. It remains uncertain if her husband shares this sentiment. As the legitimate wife, should Chao Jin still harbor feelings for Shen Luan, she would merely be relegated to the status of a concubine. Indeed, given her current predicament, she has lost all hope of becoming the pride of the Shin family, and thus, no one else may attain that distinction. Xinyu seemed to have discovered another avenue to derive pleasure. As long as Shen Luan remains beneath her, as long as her life is more miserable than her own, she would find joy. She would find satisfaction. The light in Shun Yu's eyes reignited, a smile gradually creeping upon her lips. If this is her husband's desire, she would undoubtedly assist him in realizing it. Under the guise of caring for Shunyu, Shen Luan subtly discerned that Chao Jin remained stagnant in his position, not having received a promotion despite marrying Shunyu. This realization brought her great delight. It seemed her grandmother had indeed not aided him. Shen Luan was immensely gratified, her smile radiant for many consecutive days, even breaking into laughter at times while writing. However, when these characters fell into Shen Wenxiao's hands, her amusement swiftly faded. Shen Wenxiao, with a smile that was both elusive and palpable, set the paper aside after reading it, saying nothing, while tapping his fingers rhythmically on the table. Shen Luan's composure began to unravel, and she admitted defeat. Brother, do you think my writing is inadequate? I can return and practice more. Shen Wenxiao looked up at her. Do you truly believe your writing is commendable? Not at all. I've been somewhat lax of late. I assure you, I will be diligent moving forward. Shen Luan reached out to retrieve her writing, eager to return and refine her skills. However, Shen Wenxiao pressed down on the paper, preventing her from pulling it away. Though you think your writing is already satisfactory, hence there is no need for further refinement? It is evident that you have been in high spirits lately. Your strokes seem to float off the page. Shen Luan silently withdrew her hand, peering at the writing. Surely, it wasn't that exaggerated, brother. You speak the truth. She obediently acknowledged her fault, yet a slight crinkle of her nose revealed her reluctance, which did not escape Shen Wenxiao's notice. Not satisfied? Not at all. I am indeed impressed. Shen Luan quickly replied, I acknowledge that I have not dedicated myself as I once did, but rest assured, brother, I shall amend this. Truly. Was the fruit you sent last time given to you by Qin Gu? Chapter 124. What concern is it to me? Ah. Shen Luan was perplexed as to why this topic resurfaced. No, yes. Shen Wenxiao raised his hand, signaling her to take the paper away. There is no need to come by tomorrow or the day after. I shall not be at home. Shen Luan hurriedly took the paper back, casually inquiring, Brother, where are you going? To the estate in the west of the city for a banquet hosted by Lu Shijiang of the Hanlin Academy, where various officials will also be present. Lu Shijiang. Is that the Lu Qing? Shen Wenxiao glanced up, curiosity sparking in his eyes. How do you know? Shen Luan smiled quickly. Oh, I happened to hear of him by chance. Brother, are you quite close with this individual? Not particularly. We merely share the same institution and exchange pleasantries when we cross paths. Shen Luan exhaled in relief. She had heard of Lu Qing from Chao Jin, who had leveraged their relationship to secure a position as a scholar. Chao Jin's assessment of this person was that his only talent lay in irritating others, as he specialized in twisting words and amplifying faults. For Chao Jin, such a person proved quite useful. Shen Luan genuinely feared that Xin Wenxiao might become entangled with him. Brother, I must say, although it may not be my place to advise, you must remain vigilant when interacting with others. Some individuals may appear courteous on the surface but harbor ulterior motives. You invest most of your energy in your studies, which may leave you lacking in discernment. Do not trust everyone blindly, for there are many rogues out there. Xin Wenxiao. For a fleeting moment, the typically astute expression on his face shifted to one of bewilderment, as if he had misheard. This girl had been deceived by Xinyu for so many years, and now she was instructing him on how to discern character. Shen Luan was completely oblivious to Shen Wenxiao's confusion, fearing that her words might not resonate with him. I speak earnestly. The world is fraught with peril. Brother, you must be cautious in your friendships. Be careful. Careful and even more careful, lest you suffer in the future. Shen Luan spoke with utmost sincerity, feeling it was time to take her leave, clutching the stack of writing as she departed, casting a few lingering glances of concern, which left Shen Wenxiao exasperated. Where did she find such confidence? Shen Wenxiao chuckled softly, shaking his head, and his gaze turned contemplative. Wasn't Qin Gu in Beiping with the Duke of Guangyang? How could he still find the leisure to send gifts to Shen Luan? Shen Luan also received an invitation to the banquet, as she was currently quite popular in Yin City. Previously, she had been coaxed into avoiding social outings, and Shen Yu had tirelessly crafted a false persona for her, which tarnished Shen Luan's reputation. Yet now, she was far from timid, engaging in social gatherings with grace and poise, devoid of any airs, thus accumulating numerous friends. This upcoming event was said to be a poetry appreciation gathering, attended by a number of self-important young ladies eager to elevate their own reputations. Shen Luan pondered over the invitation. Ziyin, do you think I should attend? I possess no talent for poetry whatsoever. Ziyin stifled a laugh. If the lady wishes to go, then go. If not, then do not. Did you not say that one ought to prioritize their own comfort? While that was indeed true, Shen Luan rested her chin on her hand, anxious that upon her arrival, others might exclaim, "Isn't that the younger sister of the top scholar? Surely, she has read extensively." The mere thought of such a scenario gave her a headache. Perhaps not attending would be best. Yet it would be quite a shame, as several acquaintances would be present, and the gathering was rumored to be quite enjoyable. After much deliberation, she ultimately resolved to accept the invitation. On the appointed day, she rode in a carriage to her destination, where the daughter of the Minister of Rites, Feng Ying, was hosting the event at her family's garden estate. Upon arrival, Shen Luan noticed numerous carriages already present. As she disembarked, she spotted Wu Shuehua making her way toward her. "Miss Shen, why didn't I see Qin Shu accompanying you today?" She had some matters to attend to and could not make it. Wu Shuehua let out a derisive laugh. Could it be that she couldn't come, or that she didn't dare to? After all, in such an elegant gathering, what use would a girl skilled in the arts of swordplay have? Shen Luan found it incomprehensible how much malice Wu Shuehua harbored toward Qin Shu. Did she care so deeply for her? You seem quite disappointed at not seeing her. Who is disappointed? Wu Shuehua shot her a glare, raising her chin as she strode past with her maid. Shen Luan pursed her lips. It was clear she was disappointed. Whenever Wu Shuehua was with Qin Shu, she never seemed to gain any advantage. So why was she so fixated on her? After entering, Shen Luan found the venue to be extraordinarily refined. Every decorative piece was exquisite, devoid of any vulgarity, with verdant bamboo, plum trees, and a crystal-clear lotus pond, all surrounded by uniquely shaped rockeries. The servants of the Feng family guided her to the waterside pavilion, where several guests had already gathered. Miss Shen, you've arrived. We've been waiting for you." Several young ladies rushed over, eager to greet her as she found a place to sit among them. "Miss Shen, is that garment you were newly made? The design is truly lovely. I spotted it at the Yunjin embroidery studio the other day, and I plan to have a set made for myself tomorrow." Shen Luan glanced at her attire. Indeed, her mother had just sent it over, and it was new, and this hairpin, it's a recent piece from Bao Chui Pavilion. "I didn't expect you to acquire it, Miss Shen." Every time Shen Luan made an appearance, she garnered attention for her attire and adornments, drawing envious glances. Speaking of which, my family has recently acquired some exquisite spices from beyond the borders. The fragrance I wear today is from those. If you all are interested, I can have someone send some to you later. Really? That would be so generous of you. No wonder I noticed a new scent on you. I hesitated to ask earlier. Having learned much from the Jean family, Shunluan had become adept at winning people over, and her lively conversation kept the atmosphere vibrant. Once all the guests had arrived, Feng Ying finally made her entrance, apologizing profusely. I sincerely apologize for my tardiness. My brother was entertaining some scholars from Yin City in the adjacent courtyard, and I was helping to attend to them. As soon as she spoke, the atmosphere instantly grew more lively. Sister Feng, you didn't mention that there would be others in this secluded courtyard? Feng Ying covered her mouth with a light laugh. Well, didn't I just say so? However, others are merely others. They do not impede our enjoyment. We shall revel in our own delight. Yet, upon learning that several talented scholars from Yin City were present, it was inevitable that some would be stirred by ambition. After a while, Feng Ying took out several pieces of poetry for display, inviting everyone to appreciate them in small groups at their leisure. A poetry banquet, after all, is merely an excuse to converse and share thoughts, perhaps even to engage in a playful round of poetic games. Suddenly, someone proposed, though we are here to appreciate poetry, the opportunity is rare. Why not emulate the gentleman and compose our own verses? Immediately, others echoed their approval, but how would we judge the merits of the poems? Who would determine whose was good and whose was lacking? Lest we risk harming our camaraderie? That is simple. We have a ready-made judge among us, came the response with many gazes directed towards Feng Ying, the implication clear. Shunluan, standing nearby, gazed skyward, wondering if there could be a bit more ambition. She definitely did not wish to participate. Miss Shan, what is your opinion? Someone suddenly called her name, snapping Shunluan back to reality. Seeing everyone looking at her, she appeared bewildered. I have no particular thoughts. I lack the talent for poetry. My role is merely to serve tea and refreshments. Laughter erupted from the crowd, yet Feng Ying remained fixed on her, asserting, Miss Shan San's brother is the illustrious Jean Kuzhuang. Surely Miss Shan has been influenced by him and possesses at least some skill that surpasses ours. If you do not participate, what joy is there? Indeed, Xinluan thought to herself, how could this be happening? With a humble expression, she replied, my brother excels in his studies, but that has nothing to do with me. When it comes to talent, I cannot compare to any of you. Typically, at this point, Shunluan would have been able to extricate herself from the situation. But for some reason, Feng Ying was insistent on having her join. She even smiled and encouraged everyone to persuade Shunluan, pushing her into a position where she felt compelled to agree. Shunluan's mind raced with confusion. What was Feng Ying planning? Ultimately, everyone was to compose poetry. None could escape, leaving Shunluan both amused and exasperated. The young ladies soon provided ink, paper, and brushes, transforming the pavilion into a veritable scholarly scene. The scent of ink nearly overpowering the fragrance of the ladies. The lotus flowers in the pond were poised to bloom, and the theme of the poetry would be the lotus. Shunluan stared at the flower buds emerging from the verdant leaves. Lost in thought, then sighed softly as she began to write on the paper. She found herself writing rather quickly, and when she looked up, many had yet to begin. Shunluan instructed Xian to wait for the ink to dry and wandered to the side, leaning against the railing to observe the little fish in the lotus pond. Miss Shan appears quite confident in her poetry, remarked Feng Ying, catching Shunluan's attention. Turning to face her, Shunluan smiled politely. It is merely spontaneous composition, inspired by the moment. I do not take it seriously enough to claim any confidence. Miss Shan, not afraid of being ridiculed should her poetry fall short? Shunluan crushed a piece of pastry in her hand and tossed it into the pond, watching as the fish gathered eagerly. Her smile deepened as she thought, what do their opinions matter to me? Am I to rely on them for sustenance? As long as I find joy in my writing, that is sufficient. She turned back to Feng Ying with a smile. What do you think, Miss Feng? For some reason, Feng Ying's expression shifted to something peculiar as she watched Shunluan for a moment before breaking into laughter. Miss Shan, you are truly quite different from my previous impression of you. No wonder. No wonder what? Shunluan inquired. It's nothing. I simply find you rather interesting. Shunluan's eyes sparkled as she replied, mutual sentiments. Once most of the young ladies had finished their compositions, Feng Ying instructed the servants to collect all the poems. In the gaze of the crowd, she sent them to the gentleman, considering it a light-hearted jest, hoping they might offer some guidance. The servants, carrying the poems, filed out, and Shun Luan noticed that everyone's attention had shifted elsewhere, exchanging a few words while casting furtive glances outside. She couldn't help but reflect on the plight of young ladies. It was not easy for them. Yet, it was understandable. Marriage for a woman is akin to a second birth. The course of her later life is closely tied to the man she weds, and it is nearly impossible to alter once set. Regret would be futile. Who does not wish to find a worthy husband? All the skills learned in the boudoir are merely preparations for marriage. Observing that the ladies had lost interest, Shin Luan engaged in idle chatter, consuming numerous pastries and drinking copious amounts of tea. After a while, she went to change her attire, and on her way back, encountered someone who sparked her interest. "Miss San, what a coincidence to see you here!" exclaimed Chao Jin, his face alight with surprise as he approached her with grace. Shin Luan smiled gently in return. "Master Chao, what brings you here?" "I am on holiday today and was fortunate enough to receive an invitation. I did not expect to run into you, Miss San." "It is truly a delightful surprise." "Indeed, quite a surprise," Shin Luan replied with a childlike innocence. "Master Chao, why do you not spend more time at home with your fourth sister? Is she feeling any better?" "Fourth sister has been rather downcast due to recent events. Her temperament has changed significantly, and she has grown distant from me. I hope Master Chao can offer her some comfort and allow her to regain her former kind-heartedness." Chao Jin appeared momentarily dazed, as if nothing had changed. Shan Luan's pure nature remained, always gentle and understanding. Even when he found himself subservient and calculating outside, returning home to hear her soft voice brought him great comfort. Even though he had not fathered a child for her, and his mother had brought in a concubine, she seldom revealed her sorrow. Yet now, Chao's family was a place he wished to avoid at all costs. "Rest assured, Miss San, I will take good care of Xinyu. She will surely be pleased to know you are thinking of her. If you wish, you are welcome to visit her." Shenluan lowered her gaze. A hint of sadness in her expression. "There has been some misunderstanding between us. It would be better not to cause her further distress." "How could that be? She often speaks of you at home." Expressing her concern. "She is unable to go out now. If you visit, she would be most delighted." Chao Jian pressed earnestly, yet Shun Luan hesitated repeatedly before gently declining. "Will fourth sister truly remember me? Perhaps it is best to wait a while longer until she has calmed down." Shun Luan continued to embody the thoughtful nature that Chao Jian remembered, her gentle smile stirring waves of longing within him. He wished to possess Shun Luan immediately, to claim her breathtaking beauty and delicate kindness, as well as the wealth of the Shun family's third branch. All of it should rightfully belong to her. As Chao Jin walked behind Shun Luan, his hands unconsciously moved, and just then, someone called out her name. Shun Luan turned to see a familiar face. What a fine day it is to encounter so many acquaintances. "Master Xiao, you are here as well." Chao Jian masked his emotions as he directed a neutral gaze toward Xiao Ran, Shun Luan's former fiancé. It was Xiao Ran's emergence that had prompted the Shin family's interest, forcing him to act swiftly to secure Shun Luan's affections. Yet, even in this lifetime, without Xiao Ran, the Shin family had still severed ties with the Xiao family. Thus, Shun Luan was destined to be his. No one could take her away. Chao Jin bid farewell to Shun Luan, reminding her once more to visit Xinyu when she had the chance. Shun Luan smiled in agreement, watching him depart before turning back to Xiao Ran. "So, Master Xiao, you have come to this gathering of talented scholars." Xiao Ran withdrew his gaze. "I have business to attend to." "Then I shall not delay you any further," she replied, offering a polite bow. But Xiao Ran stopped her. "The man you just spoke with, do you know him, Master Chao? He is the husband of my fourth sister, so naturally, I know him." Xiao Ran's expression darkened. The way Chao Jian had looked at Shun Luan moments ago had not been innocent. Shun Luan suddenly remembered, "By the way, Master Xiao, do you know who brought me back to Yin City after my parents' tragedy?" "Why do you ask this? Do you know?" Shun Luan's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Xiao Ran pondered for a moment. "Let us discuss this in a different place." They found a secluded corner, and Xiao Ran stood by the rockery. "As far as I know, it was my father who arranged for your return to Yin City. He was also the one who discovered that you had survived." Shun Luan's eyes widened in surprise. So it was indeed a member of the Xiao family. This means our Shen family truly owes a debt of gratitude to the Xiao family. "My father and your father were close friends. It is nothing of great significance, if it must be counted. Our family teachings dictate that one must repay even the smallest kindness with great gratitude." My grandmother has also said that we will seek an opportunity to repay this kindness in the future. Shen Luan spoke sincerely. It was one thing not to know before, but the Xiao family had saved her life. Thankfully, the engagement had been annulled. Otherwise, having been rescued, she would have been compelled to bring discomfort to the Xiao family. How could one repay kindness with enmity? Seeing the gratitude in Shen Luan's eyes stirred something within Xiao Ran. You were unaware of this matter before, but do you know how your parents met their demise? I heard they were ambushed by bandits on their way back. Lord Shun has traveled extensively over the years, possessing considerable martial skills. The Dali Temple is fraught with intricate cases, and assassination attempts for revenge are commonplace. Yet he navigates these challenges with ease. Although the territory of Ganzhou is a strategic stronghold, it is not particularly affluent, and due to its geographical features, it has historically been free from banditry. However, the emergence of marauding horse thieves at that time raises questions. Moreover, after numerous investigations, his father uncovered some unusual details. Shen Luan lifted her gaze, inquiring, "What do you mean by that?" Xiao Ran appeared to have misspoken, diverting his eyes. "It's nothing. I've said too much. I shall take my leave." As Xiao Ran turned to depart, his sleeve was suddenly grasped. Shen Luan, her face a mask of confusion, questioned, "Is there something wrong?" "I detest those who leave their words half-spoken. If you have something to say, speak plainly, especially as it concerns my parents. Do you expect me to take your nothing at face value? This matter, I should not elaborate. The more you know, the less beneficial it is for you." Shen Luan let out a laugh. "If we are to discuss matters that ought to remain undisclosed, my knowledge far exceeds yours. Shall I await for you to inform me, or will I need to return home and have my grandmother inquire personally?" Xiao Ran's expression hardened. His thin lips pressed tightly together. Shen Luan did not hasten him, holding onto his sleeve as she waited. "Take your time. I am in no rush." After a lengthy pause, Xiao Ran finally closed his eyes in resignation. "This matter pertains to the circumstances surrounding your parents' demise, which is laden with numerous ambiguities. I have been tasked with a covert investigation, but thus far, I have not unearthed any substantial leads." Shen Luan's eyes widened. "Are you suggesting that my parents' deaths were not accidental?" "It is merely speculation." Shen Luan lowered her gaze, shock filling her eyes. She had never considered that her parents' deaths might not have been accidental. If not an accident, could it mean they were harmed by another? Since childhood, she had considered herself fortunate. Her parents encountered bandits on their journey, yet she, still an infant, survived. People often remarked it was her good fortune that spared her from disaster. Reflecting on it now, how fortunate could that truly be? If she were genuinely lucky, how could she have been targeted by the likes of Chao Jin and Shen Yu? Xiao Ran's gaze fell upon her slender, delicate hands, rendered even paler against the dark fabric of his sleeve, the faint blue veins visible beneath her skin. Soon, Shen Luan raised her head, her expression grave. "If you uncover anything related to this matter, could you inform me? I understand it may be burdensome, yet I am deeply eager to know the truth behind my parents' deaths. Though I have no memories of them, without them, I would not exist. If there indeed lies a mystery, I hope to assist in any way I can, as a means of repaying the debt of life they granted me." When Shen Luan spoke earnestly, she possessed a captivating charm. Under the gaze of her clear, focused eyes, it felt as though there was nothing he could refuse. After a moment of contemplation, Xiao Ran replied, "If I were to discover anything, I will inform you, provided it does not involve danger." "Thank you." Shen Luan smiled softly, suddenly realizing she was clutching something in her hand, and promptly released it. "How wrinkled it is. Why do I always make the same mistake?" "I apologize, it was unintentional." Xiao Ran found her abrupt shift in demeanor amusing, though his face remained impassive, ideas of no consequence. "No one will mind." Shen Luan thought to herself that there were indeed many who cared, but thankfully his dark attire concealed any evidence. "I truly apologize. I usually do not behave this way." Shen Luan chuckled awkwardly, then looked up at him again. "But I must admit, I have found you to be far more approachable than I initially imagined." Which is rather surprising. In her past life, Shen Luan had perceived him as an icy figure, someone whose mere presence could chill the air. Naturally, she had not dared to approach him. Yet now, with their relationship transformed, she felt a newfound ease in his company. Xiao Ran's expression shifted slightly. "So before, you found me hard to approach?" Shen Luan blinked. "Do you genuinely believe that you are easy to interact with?" Xiao Gongzi? Surely, you must be mistaken about yourself. I had thought that there would always be someone who would take the initiative to converse with me. It should not have been difficult to approach. Shen Luan could not contain her laughter at his bewildered expression. It was utterly amusing that he believed himself to be particularly congenial. As she laughed, Xiao Ran watched her, his usually taut lips softening slightly. How often do individuals come forth to speak with you? I haven't paid attention. Then perhaps you should. Shen Luan shook her head with a smile, feeling that she had lingered long enough, and waved at him. I must take my leave now. Xiao Gongzi, remember to inform me should you come across any news. I would be immensely grateful. Xiao Ran watched her depart, raising a hand to smooth his slightly wrinkled sleeve. He ought not to have divulged even a hint of the matters he was investigating, yet he had instinctively done so. Furthermore, had she truly found him difficult to approach, upon returning to the water pavilion? Feng Ying approached her immediately. Where has Sister Shen been for so long? Everyone has been waiting for you. Waiting for me for what? Feng Ying summoned the poems that had been set aside, exclaiming, to congratulate Sister Shen, for you have emerged victorious. Chapter 126. A long-awaited reunion. Shen Luan. The poems previously set aside had been returned. During her absence, the others had eagerly pressed Feng Ying to announce the results. To everyone's astonishment, the poem Shen Luan had composed with ease received the highest praise. Many remarked that Shen Luan's poem was innocent and vibrant. Although simple, it possessed a pure and natural beauty. Coupled with her highly regarded calligraphy, everyone was inquiring about the identity of this remarkable young lady. Shen Luan was taken aback. Is this truly sincere? Hee. I hope I haven't embarrassed anyone. As long as everyone enjoys themselves. Shen Luan signaled to Ziyin, who promptly retrieved the poems for safekeeping. Why is Sister Shen being so modest? I dare say you are indeed the sister of the newly crowned champion. The young ladies of the Shen family are truly exceptional. Feng Ying lavished her with praise, unable to cease her compliments. Shen Luan attempted several times to change the subject, but Feng Ying effortlessly redirected the conversation back to her. In exasperation, Shen Luan pulled her aside. Miss Feng, you seem particularly invested in me today. Did you notice? How could I not? Feng Ying chuckled. I initially thought it would be a challenge to draw attention to you, yet it seems remarkably easy. It is simply that you stand out too much, making it effortless to sing your praises. What are you implying? Feng Ying beamed brightly. I am merely speaking well of my brother. Sister Shen has become quite the sensation in Yin City. As the saying goes, a graceful lady attracts a gentleman, and as his sister, it is only fitting that I lend my support, especially since my brother has taken a liking to you. Shen Luan was stunned. She had not anticipated this turn of events. Noticing her shock, Feng Ying playfully patted her shoulder. Why are you so surprised? Is this your first encounter with such matters? Is it not common for young ladies to be admired while remaining in the boudoir? What, do you look down on my brother? Oh no, not at all. I have no such intentions. I am merely experiencing this for the first time. In her previous life, she had been wronged, and even now, she found herself unaccustomed to such attention. Now it was Feng Ying's turn to be astonished. Really? I find that hard to believe. Given your status, I am certain there are many suitors in Yin City. Do you not understand why everyone is eager to attend gatherings? Is it not for this very purpose? Feng Ying's eyes sparkled with dreams of romance. If one is fortunate enough to marry a beloved partner, life would not be in vain. Shen Luan glanced around. The young ladies in the pavilion were perusing their own poems, eagerly seeking feedback on their work. It was not that they were desperate to marry, but rather they wished to choose a partner they admired. Someone with whom they could share their lives. For a fleeting moment, a sense of inexplicable sorrow welled up within Shen Luan. These exquisite young women were engaged in every endeavor solely with one goal in mind. So carefully nurturing their hopes and dreams, yet there was no guarantee of kindness in return. Even after marriage, they would face a myriad of challenges in life. What troubles you, Miss Shen? Snapped back to reality. Shen Luan offered a faint smile. It's nothing. I have yet to meet your brother. I appreciate his kindness, but you must know that the Shen family has recently faced some difficulties, and my engagement with my second sister has been temporarily postponed. So, oh, that is of no consequence. Allow me to tell you, what parents can withstand the will of their children? My brother is quite the handsome gentleman. Feng Ying continued her flurry of compliments, even suggesting that someone should escort Shen Luan to meet her brother, which alarmed Shen Luan. prompting her to refuse repeatedly and seize the opportunity to excuse herself. This poetry gathering had truly broadened Shan Luan's horizons, and upon her return, she discreetly shared her experiences with Jin Shi, who was soon in stitches from laughter. Is this what you fear? I have endured such spectacles countless times in the past. Jan Shi has never shied away from discussing these matters with Shen Luan. In my younger days, I too was somewhat well known in our circle, with many secret admirers who sought opportunities to present themselves before me, yet I regarded them with disdain. Jan Shi, perhaps recalling some memory, smiled briefly before her expression gradually faded. However, as a woman, one must understand the importance of moderation in all things. I do not mean to suggest that you should refrain from conversing with men altogether. Nor should you be overly concerned with maintaining an air of modesty and self-respect. After all, does speaking with someone equate to a loss of dignity? Nevertheless, as an unmarried girl, it is wise to be vigilant in your interactions and not allow yourself to be taken advantage of. Xinluan nodded in agreement. Jane Shi continued, tomorrow, Xin Yu will return, claiming to visit the old matriarch, and she will most likely seek you out as well. Now that you has married, I have little to say. But I have always found her disposition rather disagreeable, so be cautious in your dealings with her. It is only natural for a married daughter to return to her maternal home, as long as her in-laws do not object. She may come and go as she pleases. Xin Yu arrived alone, still donning her heavy veiled hat. When she went to pay her respects to Zhang Shi, Shen Luan was also present. Upon seeing Zhang Shi, Shen Yu removed her hat, revealing her scarred face without hesitation. Grandmother, I was thoughtless before. I returned after marrying and caused you unhappiness. I have reflected deeply, and today I come to seek your forgiveness. Shen Yu's demeanor was exceedingly humble as she knelt before Zhang Shi, her tone mournful as she confessed her transgressions. Before she could utter many words, tears streamed down her cheeks. Zhang Shi, not one to relish making things difficult for children, instructed someone to assist her to her feet. There is no need for such dramatics. Now that you understand, simply live well going forward. The granddaughter earnestly acknowledged her grandmother's teachings, admitting that her previous pride had led her to commit many errors. Now, she had grasped the truth and vowed never to disappoint her grandmother again. Shen Yu appeared genuinely remorseful, her attitude exceedingly submissive, and with the added effect of her scar, Zhang Shi's tone softened as she inquired about her situation in the Chao family. Shen Yu revealed a hint of bitterness, stating there was little to share. Having married, she must endure her difficulties in silence. Fortunately, her husband was reasonable, and if his mother overstepped, he would speak up. After a moment of contemplation, Zhang Shi decided to send Shen Luan's mother to the Chao family, believing it inappropriate for them to treat her poorly since they sought to marry her. Thank you, grandmother. Shen Yu refrained from mentioning her desire for Zhang Shi's assistance regarding Chao Jian, instead engaging in trivial conversations. Shen Luan remained aloof, attending to Zhang Shi's needs. When Zhang Shi began to show signs of fatigue, Shen Yu, displaying remarkable obedience, rose from her seat, acknowledging the disturbance she had caused. It is my fault for bothering grandmother for so long. You should rest. I have not seen third sister in a while, and would like to speak with her before I depart. Zhang Shi nodded gently, offering a few words of advice before allowing the servants to assist her to her chamber. Shen Luan turned away, her expression neutral. Let us converse in the side hall. In the side hall, tea and fruits had been arranged early in the morning. Items that were commonplace in the Shen household but were now scarce in the Chao family. Shen Luan twirled her teacup, contemplating that she and her fourth sister had seemingly run out of topics to discuss. Shen Yu immediately began to weep anew. Third sister, have you truly grown angry with me? I endure my mother-in-law's harshness without complaint. Yet the mere thought of you brings me to tears. Shen Luan remained silent. This display of theatrics had not been witnessed in quite some time, and it struck her as mildly amusing. When her sister had faced an abrupt upheaval, she had been unable to process it, inadvertently hurting third sister's feelings. Yet at that moment, she had felt as though the sky was falling. In retrospect, she regretted it. Third sister, we once shared such a close bond. How I longed to return to those days. With tears welling in her eyes, Shen Yu gazed pitifully at Shen Luan. Regrettably, the sight of the scar on Shen Yu's face reminded Shen Luan of her past self, foolishly perishing in the Chao family's back courtyard. Shen Luan took a sip of water. The past was the past, and now that fourth sister was married, returning to those times was simply impossible. Perhaps not. Shen Yu wiped her tears, recalling how, Upon learning that her husband had encountered third sister and that third sister had inquired about her well-being, she had felt an overwhelming joy that swept away her fatigue. She looked earnestly at Shen Luan. You are the closest person to me in this world. I only hope you can forgive my past actions and visit me often, and then I shall have no regrets. Shen Luan regarded her quietly. Shen Yu was never one to engage in superfluous actions. Her desire to draw close to Shen Luan was merely a means to obtain something from her. Fourth sister, as an unmarried girl, it is not appropriate for me to visit the Chow family frequently, but did not grandmother say that second aunt would go? So you need not worry. I asked third sister, truly determined to distance herself from me. Shen Luan tilted her head slightly. What other sisterly bond remains between us? She observed Shen Yu's expression stiffening, her complexion paling gradually, and found it amusing that Shen Yu still believed she could manipulate her. Shen Luan had long ceased to care for Shen Yu in her past life. Shen Yu had inflicted an indelible scar upon her, colluding with Chao Jin to ensnare her, forcing her into marriage with him. In this life, Shen Luan had repaid that debt. Her current animosity was directed solely at Chao Jin, who had exploited and harmed her, ultimately leading to her demise. All of that would be repaid in due time. Thus, as long as Shen Yu refrained from provoking her, Shen Luan would not retaliate. Fourth sister, I have come to terms with the past and have no desire to settle scores with you, especially considering the reputation of the Shen family. However, moving forward, we shall part ways. You need not present such expressions before me. I was foolish once, but one cannot remain a fool forever, can they? Shen Yu's expression was a spectacle to behold. Prompting a sigh of admiration from Shen Luan, it was truly remarkable how one person could display such a range of emotions. Shen Yu dropped her pitiful facade and squinted at her. What sort of elixir has third sister consumed? You seem to have transformed entirely. Chapter 127. The desire for wealth. Well, one can only say that brother is right. Reading more books can indeed sharpen the mind. Fourth sister used to tell me that education is of no use to women. Was she perhaps afraid of my becoming more astute? Shen Yu feared her? How laughable. Congratulations, third sister, but I still believe the former version of you was far more likable. Apologies, but I prefer the present version of myself. At least I can discern right from wrong. Does fourth sister not appreciate this? No matter. I am indifferent. Shen Luan smiled sweetly at her, her exquisite beauty seemingly aglow, inciting a deep jealousy within Shen Yu. Shen Luan was no longer easily swayed. Remaining here held little value for Shen Yu. She had never anticipated that mere days after her marriage, everything would unravel like a landslide. Far beyond her expectations. It appeared that if she wished to make Shen Luan Chao Jin's concubine, she would have to devise another plan. Shen Yu's arrival heightened Shen Luan's vigilance. However, being a member of the Chao family, Shen Yu could not do much while she remained in the Shen household. After the heartfelt conversation with Jin Shi, Shen Luan had pondered many things. Jin Shi had asked her what she wished to pursue beyond the inevitable marriage that awaited every woman. The world was already harsh enough on women, especially after they wed. So while she was still a maiden, she should endeavor to pursue her desires. After careful consideration over several days, Shen Luan reached a definitive conclusion. She wished to amass wealth. Why not? Like Jin Shi, she aspired to live freely even after marriage, refusing to be constrained by anyone. Emotions were the most unreliable of commodities. Only money remained steadfast. Should she find herself married to an undesirable partner, she could easily withhold her heart. With wealth in her grasp, she would feel no trepidation. No one could demand anything of her. With newfound clarity, Shen Luan wholeheartedly dedicated herself to managing her shop. The previous 2 stationery stores had yielded sufficient profits, and following Jin Shi's guidance, she selected a suitable location for another venture, a shop specializing in cosmetics and fragrances. Rather than competing with established stores, she chose to carve out a niche, offering rare and unique varieties. While attending banquets, Shen Luan subtly promoted her wares, and to her surprise, the business flourished. Jin Shi was astonished, exclaiming, I never imagined you would succeed so remarkably. UVE only just opened, and you're already turning a profit. Alwan, you truly possess a talent for this. Shen Luan smiled modestly, unable to conceal her delight. She used her earnings to select exquisite gifts for Jin Shi and Zhang Shi, as well as to procure a complete set of coveted ancient texts for Shen Wenshao. When she delivered them, Shen Luan beamed with pride, declaring, Brother, if you ever desire anything in the future, do not hesitate to tell me. I shall procure it for you. Shun Wenshao, gazing at the rare ancient texts on the table, he felt a smile creeping upon him. Are you truly so pleased with your success in running a shop? Indeed. Shen Luan counted on her fingers, expressing her desire to earn more silver, as her brother would require funds for his future promotions and social engagements, not to mention the expenses associated with marrying a wife. She paused. Shun Wenshao rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. Why must you concern yourself with such matters? Your ability to manage the shop is commendable enough. You need not fret about anything else. I am not yet at the point where I must rely on my sister for sustenance. Shen Luan puffed out her cheeks and let out a soft "oh," appearing somewhat disheartened. After a moment's contemplation, Shun Wenshao clarified, what I mean is, even without needing to spend silver for favors, I can still achieve what I desire. Oh, you doubt my capabilities? Of course not, brother. You are truly remarkable. Shen Luan had no doubts about him. Her previously dim eyes sparkled anew. Brother, I heard from Uncle that you are being promoted. You've only been at the Hanlin Academy for a short while. Is it really that soon? It can be considered a matter of fortunate coincidence. Observing her mood lifting, Shun Wenshao sighed in relief. The thoughts of young girls truly were enigmatic, as one could never predict what might upset them. As they conversed, Shun Wenshao's attendant entered, carrying a set of garments. Young master, what do you think of this outfit? Shen Luan glanced over, noting the new attire. A bamboo green color adorned with simple white patterns, which would suit Shun Wenshao's demeanor perfectly. A smile crept onto her lips as she teased, brother. Are you planning to wear such fine clothes to meet someone? Is it for a certain young lady? The attendant set down the clothing and casually remarked. Third young lady is mistaken. The young master is to meet His Highness the Third Prince, thus he must be cautious. Just as Shun Wenshao was about to respond, he noticed Shen Luan's smile freeze and vanish. The Third Prince, brother, what business do you have with him? Shen Luan felt a surge of anxiety. The Third Prince and Chao Jian were akin to one another. They would only cast their eyes upon you if you held some value for them. Surely brother wouldn't be seeking the Third Prince's favor. Shen Luan's face paled at the thought. Sensing her distress, Shun Wenshao first dismissed the attendant before calmly stating, it's merely a meeting. I assisted him with a minor task previously, and the Third Prince wishes to express his gratitude, which I cannot refuse. Then, does your promotion have anything to do with the Third Prince? No. Shen Luan exhaled deeply. Her tension easing, Shun Wenshao narrowed his eyes, scrutinizing her reaction. Why such a strong response? Do you think I would seek the Third Prince's aid for my advancement? Shen Luan jolted back to reality, quickly realizing his misunderstanding. Oh? What do you believe I have misinterpreted? As Shen Wenshao's tone shifted, she grew increasingly timid, murmuring, I want to bother brother while he studies. I shall take my leave now. She turned on her heel and dashed away, deciding to refrain from visiting for a while. Shun Wenshao chuckled softly, casting his gaze towards the ancient texts on the table. If he did not exert himself, he would undoubtedly be surpassed by this girl. Yet, the Third Prince, his expression darkened. It was impossible to avoid this encounter, but the shadow the Third Prince cast over Shen Luan was evidently not a benign one. Shun Wenshao arranged to meet the Third Prince, Yuan Shun, at a private estate. Surprisingly, the Third Prince greeted him with warmth and ease, displaying none of the airs one might expect, embodying the very reputation he had earned, graceful and approachable. I have long wished to meet Lord Shun, but have found no opportunity until now. I greatly admire your talents. Even my father holds you in high regard. Your Highness is overly generous. I am merely a humble official. Ha ha ha, Lord Shun need not be so modest. I have always held genuine talent in high esteem. You are the future pillars of our court and deserve the utmost respect. His words, seemingly casual, hinted at promises unspoken. Yet throughout the discourse, Shun Wenshao maintained an air of indifference, as if he were oblivious to the underlying implications, preserving the necessary distance from the Third Prince. As the Third Prince's patience waned, he suggested Shun Wenshao take his leave before his composure slipped. The Third Prince's entourage quickly reassured him, this Shun Wenshao truly lacks discernment. He believes himself to be astute, yet he is merely this. Yuan Shun poured himself a cup of water, sipping leisurely, unhurried, reflecting on how scholars often bore an air of self-importance, especially those of genuine talent. Shun Wenshao would surely achieve success in the future. His father held high expectations for him, and for that reason alone, it was worth his effort. But your Highness, What if he remains unwilling to serve you? Yuan Shen chuckled lightly, then at the very least, he shall not become an obstacle in my path. Yuan Shen delayed his departure, exiting the estate some time later, only to find someone waiting before his carriage, swiftly ushered away by his attendants. What is it? Your Highness, it is that Hanlin Academy official who wishes to see you. He has already been dismissed. Yuan Shan dismissed the matter with a wave. What audacity did a mere official have to approach him? As the carriage began to move, Yuan Shan suddenly heard the official shouting from outside. Your Highness, there are issues with the disaster relief in Qingzhou. Frowning, Yuan Shan lifted the curtain to glance back, spotting a figure retreating into an alley. What ill fortune! He slammed the curtain down. The Qingzhou relief efforts were managed by his own people, and his father had always been satisfied with their progress. How could there possibly be issues? Should that person come seeking him again, he would simply have them thrown out. Chao Jin returned to the Chao residence, suspecting that the third prince had heard his words. He knew the prince would not believe him. But that mattered little. Soon enough, he would send someone to find him. Revealing knowledge of his past life was Chao Jin's last resort. The Shen family was as good as dead to him, and he had gained nothing from them. He must find another path. The experiences of his previous life had become his most valuable bargaining chip. Eat if you wish, or do not. What does it matter? What does it matter if a rich family raises someone spoiled? As long as they can fill their bellies. Isn't that enough? Picking and choosing every day. If you have the means, go buy what you want. The scathing voice of old Madame Chow reached his ears even before he entered the door. Neighbors emerged, and he hurried inside, wishing to avoid witnessing their expressions. What now? Upon seeing him, old Madame Chow showed no restraint. Look at the person you've married, complaining about this and that, consuming our resources, yet still unsatisfied, demanding better. How dare you not recognize your own standing? Shin Yu burst from inside. What's standing? The maidservants of the Shen family eat better than this. Why should you enjoy the best while I am left with scraps? Fine. I'll take this outside for everyone to see how the Chow family treats their daughter-in-law. Shin Yu brandished her bowl, ready to storm out, while old Madame Chow shouted, Go ahead. You do nothing and still wish to live in comfort. What right do you have? Shin Yu was unafraid. Escalating the situation posed no loss to her. Just as she neared the door, a sharp crash echoed as the porcelain shattered into countless pieces on the floor. Chapter 128. Fulfillment. Have you had enough of this ruckus? Shin Yu turned, a smirk gracing her lips. That depends on whether mother-in-law is satisfied. Old Madame Chow was furious enough to strike her. You wretched girl, be quiet. Chao Jian felt a throbbing headache, dizziness clouding his vision. Gritting his teeth, he pushed through it. From this day forth, Shin Yu would manage the household expenses. Old Madame Chow leapt up in protest. No. What is she to you? If mother is unsatisfied, I will send you back immediately. I can sell the house without a care and rent you another. Old Madame Chow fell silent, her face paling. What do you mean by this? After all my hard work raising you and paying for your education, now that you have some ability, you wish to cast your mother aside. Chao Jin's expression remained impassive. I need no one to obstruct me, not even you. Old Madame Chow was at a loss for words. She could see Chao Jin was serious, and even as the one who bore him, he would not hesitate to act against her. I was only concerned for our family, fearing she might mismanage the household. If you wish for her to take charge, fine, but I have no desire to meddle in this. Old Madame Chow sought an escape, tossing a set of keys at Shen Yu's feet. Shen Yu picked them up, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. Mother-in-law, I see this much better? Your son does not hold sentiment. He will support those who prove useful to him. You will come to understand this truth eventually. Compared to the troublemaking old Madame Chow, Shen Yu, being a daughter of the Shen family and willing to aid Chao Jin in plotting against Shen Luan, undoubtedly found favor with him. Old Madame Chow was frustrated, her head pounding, yet she could do nothing but swallow her anger. However, she once dreamed of a life of luxury after her son married, surrounded by maidservants, indulging in delicacies, unleashing her frustrations upon others without consequence. In that dream, she lived as a queen. How could reality differ so greatly? Shen Yu recounted Shen Luan's situation to Chao Jin. The second elder brother, for reasons unknown, insists on compelling her to study and practice writing. She has undergone a remarkable transformation and no longer shares the same closeness with me. It is no easy task to scheme against her. Chao Jian furrowed her brow, astonished by such a significant change. Indeed, she was once as foolish as a pig, but now she has become insufferably arrogant, eliciting disdain at first glance. Silence, commanded Xinyu, lifting her gaze to catch the flicker of disdain in Qiao Jin's eyes. What, are you feeling pity? Do you hold my third sister in such high regard? Yet, she looks down on you. Xinyu's tone dripped with resentment, her jealousy towards Shen Luan nearly overwhelming. However, it mattered not. Even if my third sister holds a higher place in your heart, I shall still aid you. Once Shen Luan is within the door, she will have ample means to vent her fury. Shen Luan's reputation in Yin City has been steadily rising. The people of Yin City are well aware that the third young lady of the Shin family possesses remarkable talents and excels in making money. Her wealth now quite substantial. This was not initially a matter of commendation. However, when someone spoke ill of her behind her back, Shen Wenxiao overheard and promptly delivered a brilliantly composed article to the emperor, resulting in the speaker's downfall along with their family. Now, whenever Shen Luan is mentioned, she is met with universal praise, with people fearful that their compliments may not suffice to satisfy Shen Wenxiao. It feels rather advantageous to have someone backing you. Shen Luan cheerfully shared her news with Qin Shu, who was equally delighted. I used to think your brother was distant, but who would have imagined he would protect you so fiercely? Now, it's my turn to envy you for having such a formidable top scholar brother, killing without shedding blood. Shen Luan envisioned this and collapsed into laughter on the table. But Luan, you truly are remarkable. Even without your brother's support, I believe no one would dare look down upon you. Your shops have already gained fame. How did you manage it? Qin Shu expressed her admiration. I even begged my mother to let me try. But she said I wouldn't understand anything she said, and why mother herself has to rely on the shopkeeper. How do you possess such ability? Shen Luan feigned humility. Oh, it's nothing much, just a bit of play. Perhaps I was simply lucky. The two exchanged glances and burst into laughter. News from Qin Gu and the Duke of Guangyang arrived, still conveying safety to reassure the family. Qin Shu gently nudged Shen Luan's shoulder. Did your second brother write to you again? As Shen Luan pondered how to respond, Qin Shu stifled a giggle. All right, just by looking at your expression, I can tell, Dado, how I wish your second brother would return soon. Thankfully, your grandmother isn't rushing to arrange a marriage for you. I believe that's fate. Don't speak nonsense. He is your own brother, and you dare to mock him? I am merely elevating his status. You have no idea how popular you are now. Just ask the unmarried young men of Yin City, who wouldn't wish to marry you. Qin Shu lounged in her chair, swinging her petite toes. If I were in your place, I would want to marry you too. You are beautiful, gentle, come from a good family, and are so adept at making money. Whoever marries you would gain immensely, wouldn't he they? But my brother isn't bad either. He is quite decent, right? You still dare to say that? The two laughed and joked together. When Qin Shu returned, she pulled out the letter sent by Qin Gu. Like the last time, it contained trivial matters, recounting his daily experiences in the simplest language. Each vivid scene seemingly unfolding before her eyes through his words. How wonderful it must be to travel so far and witness such diverse landscapes. Shen Luan carefully stored the letter. She had previously asked her mother. Given her vast knowledge, whether she had traveled to many places, Jane Sure had replied that she had not. All she knew was from others' accounts. Jane Sure expressed great regret over this, lamenting that being a woman often meant being confined to the inner quarters, laboring for a lifetime while never venturing beyond their small domain. As she spoke, her spirit swelled with ambition. If I were a man, I would venture forth, traveling across the rivers and mountains, experiencing the various customs and cultures spoken of by others, settling wherever I found it suitable, and moving on when I grew weary. Yet, Jean Sure understood that this was merely a beautiful wish. Qin Ji's letters provided Shen Luan with a glimpse into the world beyond, further igniting her yearning. However, he casually sent a self-portrait that Shen Luan found difficult to comprehend. He was dressed differently from before. What could this mean? Shen Luan continued to conceal the portrait at the bottom of her cabinet, fearful of it being discovered. Far away in Beiping, Qin Gu seized a moment of leisure to begin sketching again. Your Highness, this portrait bears little resemblance. Can we not be more realistic? If you send this, Miss Shun will hardly recognize you. Qin Gu kicked him lightly and frowned at the drawing for a moment before crumpling the paper. It does seem a bit off. It is far too unlike you, muttered Xiao Wu. Your Highness, it seems you wish to cram all your best features onto your face. resulting in a rather odd appearance. Chingu changed to a fresh sheet of paper and picked up his brush. Uncertain of when he might return, he was determined not to let Shenluan forget him. "Your Highness, the Duke has news." Chingu instantly set down his brush and donned his armor to exit. The brush left a long, sweeping arc of ink on the paper. No amount of correspondence could compare to an early return. Chingu kept Shenluan's words close to his heart, reminding himself that she believed he would triumph and that she would be waiting for him. The third prince later seized opportunities to engage with Shen Wanshao multiple times, subtly expressing his desire for him to join his side. The third prince's reputation soared, eagerly awaiting the emperor's decree to establish a successor. He hinted at numerous promises to Shen Wanshao, including a place in the cabinet. To demonstrate his sincerity, the third prince even expressed a desire to marry Shenluan, ensuring that she would become empress upon his ascension. Shen Wanshao, however, remarked that the Shun family lacked such fortune. Only a family indifferent to their daughter's well-being would seek to send her to the palace. Luan was destined for misfortune, and her elders wished to keep her at home for a few more years, hoping she would marry a common man and live a peaceful life. The third prince's subtle suggestions ultimately bore no fruit. Diminishing his patience, it was then that news arrived from Qingzhou, indicating that disaster relief efforts had gone awry. The third prince was taken aback, wondering if the reports were true. The intelligence confirmed that the funds dispatched for disaster relief had been siphoned off excessively, resulting in numerous fatalities. This matter could not be concealed any longer. Yuan Xian's first thought was not how the emperor would react with fury, but rather that this incident had indeed occurred. "Go, bring that editor from the Hanlin Academy who obstructed my carriage," in Qingzhou. Chaos erupted as the officials responsible for disaster relief turned into harbingers of death, failing to rescue the suffering citizens. Instead, leading to dire conditions where cannibalism emerged. The emperor, infuriated, chastised the third prince in front of the civil and military officials, his disappointment evident in his tone. Memorials calling for the third prince's impeachment began to surface, and the atmosphere in the court shifted unpredictably, with tension looming over Yin City, affecting even the Shun family. Xin Yuanda sighed deeply, his face perpetually creased with worry, feeling restless at home. The third prince, usually composed and adept at managing people, how could he commit such a blunder? The court was on the verge of chaos. Shenluan had witnessed him in such a state of despair several times. Yet when she visited Shenwanshao, she felt none of that. Shenluan found it strange, "Brother. How is it that while we are both in the Hanlin Academy, Uncle is so troubled, yet you seem unaffected? What influence should I feel?" Shenwanshao replied coolly, "I shall attend to my own responsibilities. The pressing issue is not the emperor's anger but the suffering of the people in Qingzhou." His brow furrowed as he spoke, his desk strewn with discarded papers. "For the next few days, you need not come to deliver letters. Be cautious while out, and ensure you have company. Chapter 129. The fracture of unity. Shenluan departed quietly. A few days later, she heard that the emperor intended to summon Shen Wanshao. The Shen family was taken aback, and Shen Yuanda inquired to discover that Shen Wanshao had drafted a plan for relief efforts that had been presented to the emperor. What is this Wanshao thinking? Does he not understand the gravity of the situation? Is this something he should be involved in? Shen Yuanda fretted. The emperor is in a state of rage. Any involvement in this matter could provoke his wrath. This is not merely a concern for Shen Wanshao. It will inevitably implicate our family. This child, how could he be so reckless? Lady Yu and Lady Lu were in a panic. "Old madam, what shall we do?" "This is not our affair. It is merely Wanshao's youthful arrogance. Having achieved the top scholar title, he no longer knows restraint. Indeed, Jian is still diligently studying. If he is affected by this, who will the Shun family rely upon in the future?" Lady Zhang kept her expression stern and silent. Shenluan sighed softly. "Aunt, Uncle has not yet encountered trouble. Why do you cast him aside so readily? He is acting for the people of Qingzhou. The emperor may not hold him accountable." "What do you know?" Lady Yu glared at her. "Do you know more than your uncle about these matters? Why has the emperor summoned him to the palace at this time? Is it possible for everything to be shrouded in uncertainty? Must we suffer alongside your family?" Jean stood up, exclaiming, "Sister-in-law, why take your anger out on Ailwan? We, the third branch, have no desire to implicate anyone. Should something truly happen to Wenshao, we will bear the burden alone. Can you handle it? Unless you separate and go your own way, when the matter is pursued, enough. Do you think I am already dead?" Zhang's roar interrupted Lu's words. Lu closed her mouth awkwardly, yet felt no remorse for her statements. Zhang slightly closed her eyes, feeling dizzy. Shen Luan hurried over to massage her. Grandmother, do not be angry. Your health is paramount. Heh, what good is my health? I would rather be angered to death so that the Shun family can fragment sooner. Xin Yuanda immediately knelt. Mother, it is my impatience that has hurt your heart. Beside them, Shen Yuanzhong, who had been oblivious to the situation, nonchalantly remarked, But mother, what you say may be coarse, yet it contains truth. If we face calamity, will the entire Shen family suffer together? Should we not leave a spark of hope? Shen Yuanda turned and scolded, Be quiet. Zhang's face turned ashen. The Shen family had endured countless trials in Yin City over the years. During the tumultuous times of the previous dynasty, the Shen family had managed to unite and resist together. Yet now, merely being summoned to the palace for questioning has left you all restless? Yu's voice was somber. What the old lady says is indeed correct, but currently, the court is unstable. It is said that accompanying a ruler is akin to accompanying a tiger. The emperor is in a rage, and Shan Wenshao has recklessly approached him without considering the multitude of lives within the Shun family. Zhang's gaze swept across the room, yet Yu did not avert her eyes. To her, the future of their first branch was of utmost importance. Zhang silently regarded her for a moment, her anger gradually dissipating, leaving only a trace of sorrow. Perhaps this was the reason for the gradual decline of the Shun family, focusing solely on their own safety. With a narrow vision and lacking compassion, how could they support the glory of a family? Zhang wearily lowered her head, momentarily longing for her youngest son, the child who had always looked beyond. Unbound by his surroundings, if he were still here, the Shun family would not be in such disarray. Fortunately, his child has now grown up. I am getting old. Zhang's despondent voice pained Shen Luan's heart. If your father were still alive, I would not have to suffer like this. Alas, I have supported him for so many years. I have done my duty. Zhang was truly exhausted, bearing the weight of the Shun family's legacy alone, while her children remained disunited, easily fracturing at the slightest disturbance. Now that you are all grown, you do not need this old woman to teach you how to accept. Do you all wish to separate? A silence enveloped the room, and you struggled to suppress a smile. Had her long-held aspirations finally come to fruition? If she had her way, it was the first branch that had kept the Shun family afloat. Yet the reputation had never reflected their contributions. She had long desired to distance herself from the others to clarify who the true backbone of the Shin family was. Shen Yuanda hesitated. As the eldest son, how could he propose separation while the elders were still alive? However, you had quarreled with him many times, and Shan Wenshao seldom consulted him. Even if they survived this incident, what about the next? He wished to live peacefully. Lu and Shen Yuanzhong were not worth mentioning. The second branch was inept, and at ordinary times, they would never consider separation. Living off the Shen family was preferable to risking their lives. Shen Yuanzhong scoffed. Mother is wise. With the court in turmoil, we must retain some contingency plans, at such a time. Remaining still to preserve strength is vital. How could we risk advancing? That would be courting death. And we certainly do not wish to die. Shen Luan's eyes were icy. Second uncle, be cautious with your words. My brother is still in the palace. Is it fitting for an elder to utter such ominous words? Oh, did I say something wrong? Has he consulted the family before acting? Must the entire family accompany him in his recklessness? Jean intervened. I assure you, if anything happens, our third branch will not drag you down. Then let us separate. Mere words are of no use. As tensions rose once more, a pallor crossed Zhang's face. She slammed her hand on the table, and a string of prayer beads on her wrist suddenly snapped, scattering beads across the floor. Then let it be. Shen Luan never anticipated that the Shun family would face such a predicament. In her previous life, the family had never separated until her death. Yet in this life, they had reached such a juncture. The sentiments of the first and second branches were clear. They must act swiftly, lest they wait for ill tidings from the palace to divide, which would complicate matters. After Zhang made her decision, she steeled herself, swiftly laying bare the family assets, dividing them into three. Yu was not entirely satisfied. They were the first branch and needed to support the old lady. With two male heirs in the family, shouldn't they receive a larger share? The third branch already had their own wealth, and with only Shan Wenshao as a male heir, who knows if he could escape this calamity? Why should they also receive a portion? However, Shen Yuanda's expression darkened, and Yu dared not speak further, fearing he might act out of misguided filial piety and ruin the separation. Shen Luan and Jin remained silent throughout, as they cared little for the Shen family's possessions. As Yu and Lu began to bicker again, Zhang's spirits waned further. Shen Luan stepped forward with a cold expression. Aunt, let us, the third branch, take care of grandmother. What did you say? That is unacceptable. Without a moment's hesitation, Shen Yuanda rejected the notion. As the eldest son, how could he allow such a thing? Word of this would surely invite ridicule. Yet you felt a surge of delight. This would be splendid. Luan girl, your filiality is commendable. But Shen Luan ignored Yu's insincere expression and continued. My father passed away early, and the third branch has only my brother to support us. With grandmother here, we have someone to rely on. Both uncle and second uncle are alive, yet we in the third branch are left vulnerable. Even if others learn of this, they will not speak ill of us. Yu's eyes brightened, her tone softening. You speak truth. As orphans and widows, it is indeed perilous without an elder. Shen Luan turned, grandmother, we will surely take good care of you. Will you join us? She was not fearful that the third branch could not uphold a family. Rather, she feared that the first branch would fail to care for grandmother. In such a time to propose separation without regard for grandmother's feelings. If it were so now, what might happen after the division? Shen Luan dared not imagine. Grandmother, please stay with us. I cannot bear to part with you. Tears welled in Shen Luan's eyes, and Zhang's numb heart ached slightly, finally nodding in agreement. In a flash, the venerable Shen family had divided. The first branch claimed the Shen residence but agreed to take less from elsewhere. Yet neither the first nor second branch was willing to concede on the residence, indicating that their disputes would continue for some time. Only the third branch, with Jin and Shen Luan, cared little for such arguments. They swiftly began to pack their belongings. What was happening to the Shen family? Were they preparing for a long journey? It seemed as if they were relocating. Those were the people of the third branch. Could it be? The Shen family's actions sparked much speculation. Jan and Shen Luan were bustling about. The third branch's possessions were simply too numerous. Mother, do you think the house we are going to will be sufficient? Shen Luan helped Jean check the inventory in the storeroom, her eyes nearly glazing over at the extravagance of her stepmother's wealth. Jan, unfazed, replied, we can store it in the adjacent house. I have purchased it. I initially intended to present it to you when you wed, but now we can have the wall between them knocked down. Perhaps larger than the current Shen residence. Shen Luan, mother, how formidable. Excluding the assets allocated to the third branch, merely accounting for Jin's wealth had taken several days. All the while, there had been no news of Shan Wenshao. The Shun family members grew increasingly certain of their fears. Something must have gone awry. Yu, fanning herself in the room, felt utterly delighted. After all, it did not concern them. From now on, they could live as they pleased, without interference from others. Indeed, the eldest young master is working diligently. Once he rises to prominence, will not the Shun family rely on him? You felt completely at ease. After enduring so many years of oppression, she could finally hold her head high, no longer burdened by the responsibilities of managing such a large family. Chapter 130. There is still time, madam. The eldest young master has returned. You immediately stood, and before she could reach the door, she saw Shan Jian, weary from travel, enter. Why are you back at this hour? Were you not to seclude yourself at the Hanlin Academy for half a month? Is it hot outside? Chuier, go check if there is any sweet soup made with well water. Bring a bowl over. Mother, has our family truly separated? Shinjian, breathless, asked hurriedly. You smiled gently. How did you find out? It is nothing of great consequence. Do not let it affect your studies. What a momentous event. Why has no one come to inform me? Shinjian learned of it through the words of others. He did not believe a single word, yet as he listened to their accounts, vivid and detailed, he sensed the gravity of the situation and hurried back. It turns out, the Shun family has truly undergone a drastic change. Alas, no matter how significant the matter may be, how can it possibly compare to your future? Jian, our family's reliance will rest upon you from now on. Yushur attempted to wipe the sweat from Shan Jian's forehead but was rebuffed. As long as grandmother is still alive, how can we easily divide the family? I have heard about the situation concerning my second brother. He has done nothing wrong. I do not agree with this division. And I shall go to grandmother to clarify the matter. Shin Jian turned to leave, and Yushur, unable to stop him despite calling after him, followed in pursuit. This child. We must hurry to see what has transpired. Ever since the division of the family, Zhang Shi's spirit has been quite poor, feeling utterly drained. Whenever she had a moment, Shun Luan would be right there, summoning doctors to diagnose her pulse, coaxing grandmother to drink the prescribed concoctions, and entertaining her to prevent further despair. Does grandmother not adore plum blossoms? The courtyard that mother left for you is surrounded by a plum grove. When the flowers bloom, you can simply open the window to behold them. I will have someone gather some blossoms to preserve for you to brew plum blossom wine. Shun Luan nestled beside Zhang Shi, speaking softly while gently massaging her arm with just the right amount of pressure. How about we raise a small dog later? I have heard they are particularly gentle and adorable, with fur as white as snowballs. I am certain grandmother would take a liking to it. A faint smile appeared on Zhang Shi's face as she listened, just as Shanjian arrived. Let him in.as Shanjian entered. He lifted his robe and knelt before Zhang Shi, saying, Grandmother, your grandson does not agree with the division of the Shen family. The Shen family has always shared both glory and shame, which is why we have attained our current standing. How can we so carelessly instigate a division? I implore you to retract your decree. A glimmer of relief finally surfaced in Zhang Shi's eyes. The Shen family would not simply fade away. Jian, what is this you are doing? You sure rushed in to assist him. Your grandmother has not been feeling well these past few days. Why do you disturb her? Shinjian refused to rise. Grandmother, the division must not occur. Oh, it has already been decided. There is no need for your concern. You should return to the Hanlin Academy at once. You sure, feeling frantic, lamented the fact that she had raised such a dull son. Zhang Shi, with a serene expression, replied, the Shun family has already disbanded. Your concern brings me comfort. Return to your studies, for the hopes of the Shun family rest upon you. Grandmother, you sure pulled him away, and Shun Luan sighed inwardly. Grandmother, the Shen family shall not fall into decline. You need not worry. Zhang Shi closed her eyes. Whether she felt assured or not, the situation had already unfolded this way. The news of the Shen family's division swiftly spread throughout Yin City. Many engaged in fervent discussions, for it is rare to find families that divide while the elders are still alive. The official reason given was that the old lady of the Shun family felt her children had grown up and should be allowed to pursue their own paths. But who would believe such a tale? It was rumored that the newly appointed top scholar had been summoned to the palace and had yet to emerge, leaving everyone in suspense regarding his fate. It is no wonder. The main and secondary branches of the Shen family do not wish to be implicated. It is only natural, my foot. When calamity strikes, everyone looks out for themselves. There is no sentimentality among the wealthy. I can see through it now. Preserving one's life is paramount. If you were in their shoes, would you not fear? Indeed, it feels devoid of compassion. It is quite tragic. The third branch had nearly completed their move, yet they still awaited news from Shan Winds, no matter what news it was. It would certainly not arrive quietly. A few days later, Shen Wenxiao finally returned. He was carried back in a sedan chair, utterly exhausted, having even fallen asleep within it. Yet he was unharmed. Brother. The moment Shen Luan saw Shen Wenxiao, she suddenly could no longer contain herself and rushed to embrace him. I'm so relieved you are safe. Hearing the tremor of tears in Shen Luan's voice, Shen Wenxiao squinted slightly, placing a hand on her head as he asked, What has happened at home? Shen Luan stifled her emotions for a long moment, finally managing to compose herself, though her eyes remained red. She shook her head while rubbing her eyes. It's nothing. It is just good that you are back. Shen Luan only displayed such a wronged expression in her childhood. Now, she was fighting back tears. Shen Wenxiao straightened up and walked inside, quickly grasping the full context of the situation. Shen Luan felt a bit embarrassed. Yet she was truly frightened. After all, the division of the family had occurred, entirely different from her memories of her past life. What if something truly happened to Shen Wenxiao? Though her brother could sometimes be quite intimidating, she still held a deep fondness for him. Now, seeing Shen Wenxiao appear safely before everyone, Shen Luan unconsciously reverted to her childhood habit of walking closely behind him, clutching his sleeve so that he would not lose her. Shen Wenxiao walked at a slow pace, feeling the resistance from his sleeve, which prompted him to look back frequently. Noticing the redness around Shen Luan's eyes, the chill in his gaze grew even colder. Since the family has divided, let us take grandmother and leave this place. Jian Shi and Shen Luan felt a pang of concern for his weary appearance. Brother, perhaps you should rest first, once you. There is no need, I do not like to rest in someone else's home. Shen Luan. Upon hearing that Shan Wanshao had returned, Shen Yuanda rushed over in a flurry. What on earth transpired in the palace during your time there? Did the emperor take any action? How will the third prince handle the aftermath? Shen Wanshao cast him a sidelong glance. While I was away, uncle took excellent care of my mother and sister. Shen Yuanda's face turned crimson. Wanshao, this matter. Yet this is for the best. It saves me the trouble of worrying about affairs elsewhere. Shen Wanshao chuckled coldly, leading Shen Luan and Jin Shi to fetch grandmother. The third branch of the Shun family moved out of the Shun residence without evasion, departing grandly and in full view. The once bustling Shun residence suddenly felt much emptier. Jian Shi had long since purchased numerous properties in Yen City, having amassed far more wealth than she knew what to do with over the years. The signboard had yet to be crafted, as she intended to wait for Wanshao's return to write it. It was a suggestion from Al Wan, who remarked that his handwriting was quite beautiful. Shen Luan laughed cheerfully beside Shen Wanshao. Brother, have you not had a proper rest for several days? Shen Wanshao leaned against the carriage, murmuring in acknowledgement, there has been no respite. Several historians have even collapsed from exhaustion. Shen Luan and Jin Shi exchanged glances, and Shen Luan suddenly whispered, the tonic's mother has been insistently providing you seem to be effective. Shen Wanshao let out a soft chuckle, slowly closing his eyes. Upon reaching their destination, the first order of business was for Shen Wanshao to rest. Shen Luan assisted Zhang Shi in disembarking, trailing slowly behind. Grandmother, if there is anything you find unsatisfactory, Mother said she will promptly arrange for changes. This new residence was even better situated than the original Shen residence. The path in front was wider, and it was far more tranquil. The guardian stone beasts at the entrance appeared fierce, and from outside, one could see branches laden with pale pink blossoms extending over the high walls. As Zhang Shi entered, she found it had been thoroughly cleaned, with every corner immaculate and refreshed. The former Shen residence, despite having undergone several renovations over time, could not hide its age. After rounding the corridor, Shen Luan guided Zhang Shi to her courtyard, where indeed a grove of plum trees greeted them. The sunlight and layout of the courtyard were exceptionally well arranged, providing a spacious and comfortable environment. The items within had been replaced with those suitable for Zhang Shi, all polished to perfection, not a speck of dust in sight. Grandmother must be weary. Please rest well, I have already arranged a feast for tonight. Let us celebrate, treating it as a housewarming event. Shen Luan maintained a cheerful demeanor before Zhang Shi, frequently revealing her neat white teeth, her adorable dimples peeking out, lifting everyone's spirits. Zhang Shi smiled and responded, very well, I shall heed your words. Shen Luan's courtyard was not far from Jin Shi's, and it had been beautifully arranged, with an abundance of flowers, plants, and trees. Her belongings had already been placed inside. Xian, while drying her hands, remarked, Miss, I believe this place is much better than before. How so? Xian replied earnestly, it is peaceful. She selected some fragrant balm from a box and applied it to the back of Shen Luan's hand, gently massaging it in. For instance, you no longer have to endure the disdainful glares from the second young lady, nor will you encounter the second madam, who always critiques you from head to toe. Shen Luan laughed, feeling that it truly did not matter. She had long since learned not to let the opinions of others affect her. However, as she turned to look out the window, she realized it was indeed quite pleasant. At the evening banquet, Shen Wanshao ultimately could not rise, and Jin Shi could not bear to rouse him. Zhang Shi waved her hand, urging him to rest well, for although he was young, he was not made of iron. They would dine without him. Shen Luan extravagantly ordered a lavish spread for the banquet, half of which consisted of vegetarian dishes, avoiding heavy meats to ensure a light meal. Zhang observed them, feeling a sense of injustice on their behalf. With Yuan Xiu having passed away early, there was no one to support them in this crucial moment. How could that be? After all, you have grandmother here, Shen Luan replied with a smile. And there is also my brother. We do not feel wronged, grandmother. Please do not say that. Zhang patted her. I know you are all good, but it is my inadequacy for not being able to advocate for you. Thankfully, Wanshao is a promising individual. Your future will surely be bright. Although the meal was small in number, it was warm and joyful, and no one wished to bring up past grievances. There were still many days ahead. Chapter 131. The fish is hooked the next day? Longxin Ho's people came knocking. The Marquis, upon hearing of the situation, was exceedingly furious and immediately instructed me to convey his regards to the old lady, stating that he did not regard the Shin family highly, and she could express her grievances as she saw fit. Zhang smiled. I have no grievances to voice, merely tired. If I were unwilling, the Shin family would not be able to split. Tell my brother not to worry. Our current situation is quite acceptable. Long Xin Ho's people confirmed several times before returning to report, but the Marquis had already formed a judgment in his heart. Why did Zhang not join the main household during the split, but instead moved out with the third branch? Regardless of the reasoning, this single action was enough to spark speculation. The Guangyang Ho residents also sent inquiries, as Guangyang Ho shared a deep friendship with Shun Yuanxiu and had always valued the Shin family's third branch. Shun Luan provided a thorough explanation and specially requested someone to inform Qin Shu that she was fine. The family was still tidying up, and once everything was settled, she would invite her to visit. After several busy days, Shun Wenxiao finally recuperated. He came before Zhang to offer his respects, and upon seeing him, Shun Luan's eyes lit up. Brother, you are finally awake. If you don't come out soon, Mother will send someone to perform a spirit summoning. Zhang playfully tapped her. You little rascal. Shan Luan chuckled, finding that Shan Wenxiao appeared to have regained his composure. Upon returning from the palace, his countenance had resembled that of a ghost. Zhang looked sternly at Shan Wenxiao. You haven't been to the Hanlin Academy for several days. Is that not a concern? The Emperor summoned you. What was it for? Shan Wenxiao succinctly explained. The Emperor had summoned him to discuss the article he had submitted. With chaos erupting in Qingzhou, if not handled promptly and appropriately, unforeseeable consequences would arise. He had proposed several solutions in his article, many of which required careful elaboration. The Emperor, in haste, called for him to address this matter. Interestingly, shortly after he entered the palace, the third prince also submitted a memorial, several of which coincidentally aligned with his own proposals. The third prince, expressing sincere regret, sought to atone for his past mistakes, and the emperor's anger towards him had somewhat diminished, instructing the two of them to thoroughly discuss their respective memorials. Thus, he remained in the palace for several days under the emperor's command, unable to send news back in a timely manner. Zhang breathed a sigh of relief. So it was like this. Does this mean the emperor was not enraged by your actions? The emperor cares for the well-being of the people and is constantly pondering how to alleviate disasters. How could he indiscriminately unleash his wrath? Shin Wenxiao did not mention that his exhaustion stemmed from the subsequent discussions. Where he had been the primary supporter, he had read the third prince's memorial, which was indeed commendable, but the third prince himself lacked unique insights, suggesting that there were other individuals behind that memorial. At the Hanlin Academy, the palace had already made arrangements, so the delay of a few days was inconsequential. Shan Wenxiao reassured everyone that he had not anticipated any rewards from this endeavor. And there would be no punishments either. As Shan Wenxiao was explaining, a procession exited the palace, making their way to the Shan residence. The palace attendants carried numerous items draped in red cloth, prompting speculation among all present. Upon arriving at the Shan residence, the leading eunuch requested to see Shan Wenxiao. Have you split the family? The eunuch's sharp voice was filled with confusion. However, after a moment's thought, he said nothing further and ordered someone to investigate the current residence of the Shen family's third branch before departing in a grand procession. Yusher paced anxiously within the house, appearing to be less inclined to confront them than to bestow rewards. Oh no. Shen Wenxiao wouldn't have achieved merit, would he? A young maid rushed in. Madam, the first and second madam said they are currently unable to move out, claiming that the residence is so large that it cannot accommodate just their family. Yusher's brows furrowed. How shameless. Even after the split, why do they linger here? Go tell them to move out within a few days. If they refuse, I would not mind assisting them. The palace staff found the residence of the Shin family's third branch, and Shan Wenxiao, having received news in advance, came out to greet them. The eunuch's face beamed with a flower-like smile. Lord Shun, the emperor appreciates your contributions to the people of Qingzhou and has specifically sent rewards for you. The palace attendants poured in with the rewards like a flowing river. Shan Wenxiao maintained a neutral expression, while the eunuch, seemingly accustomed to his demeanor, continued to utter celebratory phrases, ensuring the atmosphere remained lively. Jianshi approached to express her gratitude, and the two articulate individuals quickly enlivened the scene. Standing beside Shan Wenxiao, Shun Luan exclaimed, Brother, you have achieved merit. Shin Wenxiao glanced at her. When I wrote those, I did not think too much of it. Then that makes it even more impressive. Shin Luan smiled brightly at him. My brother is truly remarkable. Shen Wenshao subtly curved his lips, appearing more pleased than he had been at the sight of the emperor's rewards. News of Shen Wenshao receiving the emperor's rewards spread back to the Shen family, causing Yu Shi to feel deeply aggrieved. Who would have anticipated such an outcome? It left everyone unsettled. After all, it was merely a reward, and no one appeared envious. She still felt that the division of the family was beneficial. Now, each branch managed its own affairs, and the main branch need not covet anyone's achievements, nor could they drag them down. However, this sentiment did not last long before it crumbled. The reason being, Shen Wenshao mentioned that the memorial was not solely his accomplishment. An official of equal rank to Shen Yuanda at the Hanlin Academy had also received a promotion due to it. With such an opportunity, why not assist one's own kin? Yu Shi seethed in anger. Her elder brother had remained stagnant in the Hanlin Academy for so long, and such a prime opportunity had gone to an outsider. What was Shen Wenshao thinking? Shen Yuanda's stagnant position had always been a source of pain for Yu Shi. And no matter how hard he tried, he could not rise. She was nearly driven to despair. Now, if Shen Wenshao merely brought up a matter, she felt anxious at home and urged Shen Yuanda to speak to him. You should quickly discuss this with him. It would not take much effort, just a casual mention, and perhaps you could move up a notch. Shen Yuanda wore a grim expression, refusing to go. When it comes to avoiding suspicion, one would wish to expel people overnight. Now you expect me to go curry favor? I will not. Yu Shi, infuriated, struck his back. How can you still care about shame at such a moment? What face is there to consider? This is not the time for such concerns. No wonder you remain in this position. I will do as I please. Shen Yuanda adamantly refused to go. After the division, he reflected and felt it was inappropriate, at that time. He had been consumed by fear, but afterward, he regretted his actions. How could he bring himself to seek Shen Wenshao's assistance over such matters? Hadn't Shen Wenshao made his stance clear when he returned that day? While Yu Shi claimed to be indifferent to envy, gradually, her words became mere lip service. Shen Wenshao received another promotion, and it had only been a short time since he joined the Hanlin Academy. He was now on the verge of matching Shen Yuanda's status. Nowadays, when people spoke of Lord Shen, it was he who came to mind first, infuriating Yu Shi to no end. Previously, Shen Yuanxiao's name had overshadowed all, and now it was Shen Wenshao's turn. Why did the third branch have such good fortune? Thinking of her son sulking over the family division, Yu Shi's lips curled into a frown. When will the second branch move out? Do they still have any shame left? Do they truly believe I am so easy to deal with? While Shen Wenshao basked in glory, the reputation of the third prince also experienced a revival. The third prince sincerely acknowledged his past misjudgments in discerning people, engaged in self-reflection, and promptly proposed remedial measures, managing to avert a significant downfall. However, did you not say that as long as that memorial was submitted, my father would not only overlook my responsibilities but would also regard me with new eyes? The emperor merely calmed down slightly. The punishments that were due still awaited him. Yuan Shen sat behind his desk, his somber gaze fixed on the figure standing in the shadows. Chao Jian slowly emerged from within. Your Highness, no one expected Shen Wenshao to act before you, but the plan I devised for you has proven effective, has it not? Yuan Shen narrowed his eyes. Now you may explain how you knew chaos would arise in Qingzhou. Because I have experienced it, Chao Jian replied. In his previous life, the third prince gradually lost the emperor's trust following the Qingzhou rebellion, while the ninth prince began to reveal his intelligence and gradually became a formidable rival. Your Highness, I not only knew that chaos would erupt in Qingzhou, but I also know who will be your greatest obstacle in the future. Why loyalty to you? Your Highness, you will come to understand one day. If you trust me, I am willing to dedicate everything for you, even to the point of sacrificing my life. Why should I trust you? You are merely a mere editor. What value do you hold? In comparison, why not court Shen Wenshao instead? Chao Jian smiled gently. Your Highness, Shen Wenshao possesses a rigid disposition, incapable of adapting. How could he comprehend your Highness's intentions? Deep down, Chao Jian felt a twinge of reluctance. In his past life, the solution to the crisis in Qingzhou indeed originated from Shen Wenshao, earning him merit. However, he recalled that Shen Wenshao had not presented his proposal to the emperor so hastily. Why the urgency this time? If your Highness does not believe me, it matters not. Soon, the ninth prince will accomplish something that will earn the emperor's admiration. At that time, your Highness may decide whether to place your trust in me. Chao Jian was well versed in the art of dealing with the third prince, ensuring that he did not reveal his hand too soon, but instead tantalized him, making him feel valued. Since the bait had already been taken, there was no need for haste. Brother, the third prince has submitted a proposal to the emperor that is remarkably similar to yours. Xin Wenxiao looked up to find Shen Luan's curiosity unabashedly displayed upon her face. Why do you inquire about such matters? Out of curiosity, I never imagined there would be another clever individual in the world aside from my brother, although he surely cannot surpass your intellect. Xin Wenxiao raised an eyebrow at her, wondering when she had become so adept at flattery. Chapter 132. I am also afraid. Xin Luan, brimming with righteousness, replied, I am merely speaking the truth. Her eyes widened again. Does the content of his proposal closely resemble yours? Xin Wenxiao too found this perplexing. If it were mere coincidence, it seemed rather too fortuitous. Perhaps they had simply arrived at the same conclusion independently. Nonsense. Without a moment's thought, I can declare it is undoubtedly that scoundrel Chao Jin, the shameless wretch, seeking to usurp my brother's achievements as a means to curry favor with the third prince? Bah! I hardly believe the third prince possesses such acumen. Brother, do you think someone might be advising the third prince? Xin Wenxiao shot her a glance. This is not your concern, oh. I was just asking. I simply believe you should be wary. Some individuals, despite their genteel appearance, are not truly human. Xin Wenxiao frowned. As a young lady, it would be more appealing if you spoke with greater elegance. Xin Luan pouted. Must I also adhere to such decorum when in your presence? No need. Xin Luan's spirits lifted once more, and upon returning home, she found herself lost in thought. Chao Jin would undoubtedly engage with the third prince. He would surely exploit all that he had learned from his past life. Should he choose to remain loyal to the third prince, he might undertake some clandestine actions before the ninth prince, and Qin Ji's influence grew formidable. Xin Luan rolled around on her bed, clutching her head. Why can I not recall anything of significance? She remembered that after the Qingzhou incident, Chao Jin frequently returned to speak of the third prince, lamenting about the squandered opportunities, asserting that had he been in the third prince's position, he would have. If he were to succeed in his underhanded schemes, the ninth prince and Qin Gu would be in peril. Suddenly, Xin Luan bolted upright in bed. How had she become so inflated with concern? Surely, Qin Gu did not require anyone's worry. The division of the Xin family had not truly affected the third household. They had lived carefree during their time within the Xin estate, and after the split, their lives had only grown more indulgent. With fewer members in the third household, there were fewer matters to attend to. And the Jin matriarch had entrusted all domestic affairs to Xin Luan. Once your brother is married, you will simply hand over the responsibilities to your sister-in-law. After all, you will need to learn these things once you wed. So acquiring some experience now is not unwise. The Jin matriarch had found a perfect excuse for her own laziness, leaving Xin Luan both amused and exasperated. Thankfully, her grandmother remained a guiding presence, ensuring that she managed her duties competently. The third household had always been frugal, lacking for nothing, especially silver. Thus they continued to live in prosperity. When Qin Shu arrived, she remarked, "It seems your servants are exceptionally well cared for. Luan, let me confide in you. I believe the separation has been for the best. What good are relatives who can only share in prosperity but not in adversity? My mother often says that your uncles have been excessively unreasonable, hastily seeking a division at a time like this, fearing being burdened by you. Clearly, even in times of trouble, we could find solutions together." Qin Shu felt deeply for Xin Luan. If you ever find yourself in need, you are always welcome at my home. My parents would gladly assist you. Thank you. Xin Luan laughed heartily, managing her household affairs while conversing with Qin Shu. The sun shone warmly upon them. In the Shen residence, Yu Shi became increasingly agitated, while Lu Shi and Shen Yuanzhong sought various excuses to avoid moving out. Regardless of the reasoning, the couple remained obstinate. Sister-in-law, you need not be so miserly. You only obtained this residence through the favor of the main household. With such a large space, how could we possibly inconvenience you? Lu Shi rolled her eyes. Is it not enough that I have already expelled the third sister-in-law and the old matriarch? Must I also be so ruthless? Yu Shi, in a fit of anger, retorted, having already divided the family, you have received your rightful share. Now, do you wish to disregard that? Why are you so anxious? We do not consume your provisions. Where outside is as comfortable as home. Lu Shi had already devised a plan to rent out the property allocated to them, at least securing some rental income. Shen Yuanzhong, idling about, would find himself in dire straits if they truly vacated. This is no longer your home. Second brother, will you not intervene? Shin Yuanzhong glanced at her. Even with the division, this is not your place to dictate. Let my elder brother speak. If he instructs us to leave, I shall depart immediately. A mere woman, so petty. Is she not afraid of becoming a laughingstock? Yushi was infuriated. Do they dare call me a laughingstock? She turned to pressure Shin Yuanda. Will you not speak? Why do they remain? Shin Yuanda was utterly vexed by these matters. It was not as if there were no alternative housing. The third family had already moved out, and the matriarch's courtyard had also become vacant. Was it not sufficient? Are you intent on tearing our Shin family apart for your own satisfaction? Yushi felt faint. Now you claim it is I who causes the turmoil. Did you oppose the division when it was proposed? If it had merely been my suggestion, would this family have been divided? The implication of her words struck home with Shin Yuanda. If it were not for you, I would not be in this predicament. In recent days, Shin Yuanda had endured the scornful gazes of his peers at the Hanlin Academy. Although Shin Wanxiao was in close proximity, he would not even deign to cast a glance in his direction. As though he were a stranger, everyone could see that the abrupt division of the Shin family had its roots in him. The whispers of his colleagues and the veiled mockery from his superiors nearly crushed Shin Yuanda's pride. He regretted every moment, wondering how he could have been so foolish, so cowardly as to engage in such a ludicrous act. Were it not for those two women, Yushi and Lu Shi, he would never have acquiesced. Very well, it is all my fault. For whom was it done? Was it not for our family? Yushi shrieked. You were the one who first condemned Shin Wanxiao's recklessness. You feared he would drag the entire Shin family down with him. You are the one who is foolish and cowardly, lacking even the courage to admit your faults. Shin Yuanda, you deserve to live a life of mediocrity. In the room, tensions flared, with both Shin Yuanda and Yushi flushed with anger, their eyes brimming with resentment and loathing. The division seemed to have brought only fleeting relief. Now, all that remained were irreparable regret and anxiety. Shin Yuanda stormed out, retreating to the courtyard of his concubine, while Yushi fumed within the house, refraining from throwing things, knowing they cost money. Why must my life be so miserable, married to such a weakling? I bear the burden of this family, always considering their needs, and now he dares to blame me. Yushi collapsed onto the bed, pounding the quilt with her fists, tears staining the fabric with dark splotches. The plaque for the third household of the Shen family had been crafted and was ready for delivery. It bore the elegant calligraphy of Shan residence, distinguishing it from the main estate. As the plaque was affixed, Shen Luan stood alongside Jin Shi outside the residence, watching as the servants carefully positioned the plaque in the center. The two robust characters appeared remarkably poised and refined. I told you my brother's handwriting is exquisite. Shen Luan beamed with pride, as if she had pinned it herself. Jan Shi's face lit up with joy. Indeed, it is beautiful. After all, he is a newly minted top scholar. And it exudes value. Shen Luan remarked, what an odd way to describe it. Nonetheless, she concurred with the sentiment. Luan, henceforth, this shall be our home. Jan Shi grasped her hand, relieved that she was not in a hurry to marry. Otherwise, the household would grow desolate. It is quite simple to liven things up at home. Shen Luan's eyes sparkled as she leaned closer and whispered, many have been approaching me subtly, inquiring about my brother's marriage prospects. He is quite the catch in Yin City. With just a hint from you, visitors will be flocking to our doorstep. Jan Shi chuckled, though her smile faded quickly. However, I feel somewhat hesitant to take the lead in matters concerning Wanxiao's marriage. It must be his decision to make. Shen Luan gazed skyward, pondering. Has mother seen brother being particularly close to any young lady? Is there anyone he might glance at more than once? Jin Shi pondered for a moment, then shook her head in confusion. The two women exchanged silent glances. It seemed rather unrealistic to wait for Shen Wanxiao to develop feelings for a girl on his own. Jin Shi felt somewhat intimidated by Shen Wanxiao and thus entrusted this daunting task to Shen Luan. Aren't you on good terms with Wanxiao? Shen Luan was taken aback, replying, well, it doesn't seem so. Jin Shi insisted, I can't tell there is something there. He respects me, but with you, it's different. Just ask around in Minyanqing, who doesn't he know that you are not to be offended? Lest one crosses the new imperial scholar? Jan Shi felt a wave of relief wash over her. So, do help me inquire about Wanxiao's intentions. He is not a child anymore. After attaining his degrees, he should be thinking about marriage, shouldn't he? If he has no objections, I will arrange things for him and let him see the candidates when the time comes. What do you think? Shenluan widened her eyes and took a step back. Isn't that inappropriate? What if brother gets angry? I'm afraid. Jinshi gazed at her with a pitiful expression. I'm afraid too. Zian approached Miss. Isn't that young Master Xiao over there? Is he here to see you? Shenluan and Jinshi turned simultaneously to find Xiao Ran not far away. Jinshi tilted her head. Lowering her voice, do you still have contact with him? Some matters as they were speaking, Xiao Ran had already approached, bowing respectfully to Jinshi. Jinshi regained her composure. No need for excessive formalities. Our household has been somewhat chaotic lately. Young Master Xiao, would you like to come in and sit? Xiao Ran glanced at Shenluan, stating, I have some matters to discuss with Miss Shin-san. I hope it is convenient. Jinshi smirked. Ah, some matters. She said nothing further and invited him into the estate, accommodating him in a side hall. After a while, Shenluan arrived. I apologize for the lack of hospitality. Young Master Xiao, what brings you here? She waved at the servants, instructing them to wait outside. But is there any news? Chapter 133. It can be said that she is a bride now that you have separated from the Shen family. Are there any difficulties you face? Shenluan was taken aback for a moment, then chuckled. What difficulties could there be? Everyone speculated as to why the Shen family had suddenly divided. The main and secondary branches still resided together. Yet you had moved out at that time. Shenwen Xiao was still in the palace, and only you and Madame Shan were at home. Xiao Ran spoke calmly, though his tone was slightly cold. Aren't they essentially being driven out? Shenluan understood his implication and couldn't help but chuckle softly. Young master, today's tea was sent by the tea shop. A small pouch costs dozens of taels of silver. The pastries were freshly made and delivered hot. Do you think we are living poorly? Xiao Ran's gaze swept across the table, settling on Shenluan's gentle smile, the sternness between his brows gradually diminishing. Though my brother was not home at that time, my mother and I are not easily bullied. The division was a decision made by our grandmother. We merely complied. It hasn't affected us greatly. Life continues as usual. What do you think, young Master Xiao? Shenluan spoke with calm assurance, seemingly unfazed by the various rumors circulating outside. Xiao Ran lowered his eyes. She appeared to always approach any situation with remarkable composure. I was overthinking it. Shenluan deepened her smile, however. I must thank young Master Xiao for your concern. Our family may be small, but we possess great capabilities. She boasted modestly, then felt a tad embarrassed. Covering her mouth and laughing heartily, her eyes sparkling, devoid of any gloom. For those I dislike, I can be fierce. I won't be at a disadvantage. Shenluan felt quite proud, then recalled that this was a skill she had acquired after facing death once. And she couldn't help but lament internally. The price had been rather steep. Xiao Ran's gaze flickered slightly. So, if you dislike someone, you won't speak kindly to them? Why should I humiliate myself? Xiao Ran pressed his lips together, realizing that she did not harbor any ill feelings towards him due to the broken engagement. Young Master Xiao, you did not come here merely to discuss such matters. Did you? Xiao Ran straightened his expression. Regarding your parents' affair, the time has passed too long. It won't be easy to investigate, so there won't be any immediate leads. However, at that time, there were also incidents in the territory of Ganzhou involving the Prince of Dongping. After the royal hunting event, I will conduct a thorough investigation. Perhaps there will be some discoveries. Shenluan nodded, suddenly freezing in thought. The royal hunt? A realization flashed through her mind. She recalled that in her past life, the year she married Chao Jin, there seemed to have been some incident at the royal hunt, which Qin Shu had mentioned casually during their conversation. What happened? Xiao Ran queried, sensing something was amiss with Shenluan's expression. Will you be attending this royal hunt? Of course. Then, young Master Xiao, please be vigilant. The Emperor's safety is paramount, and you must not be careless. That is understood. Shenluan could not articulate anything further. Her recollection was not vivid, only having heard from Qin Shu that there seemed to have been some trouble during the hunting event. Fortunately, the Emperor had merely been startled. She had also mentioned the ninth prince, saying he had shown some capability, ensuring her brother did not lose face at that time. Shenluan had not been concerned with such matters. She merely listened without much thought. Now, however, she regretted immensely. Had she known, she ought to have meticulously noted when events would occur in her past life. Xiao Ran had come today simply to assess the situation of the Shen family. and upon finding no abnormalities in the third branch, he felt reassured. After sending him off, Shen Luan returned to the courtyard, only to find Jin Shi waiting for her. "Isn't it time for mother to take a short rest?" Jin Shi smiled. "I am not sleepy. Come, let us talk." Shen Luan walked over and sat beside her, noticing the peculiar smile on Jin Shi's face. "Luan, why did Xiao Ran come to find you?" He heard about the division of the Shen family and came to pay a visit. Oh, just a visit. If Shen Luan couldn't decipher the underlying meaning, she would truly be dim-witted. Shen Luan smiled helplessly. It really was just a visit. The Shen and Xiao families are acquainted. Both residing in Yinqing. It is not unusual for him to come by. He is not the only one to have visited recently. Jian Shi idly twirled her teacup. "Indeed, but he is the only one with whom you had a previous engagement." "Mother," Shen Luan chuckled, feeling a bit helpless, not wanting to divulge her parents' matters. "Young Master Xiao and I really have nothing between us. Setting aside biases, he is quite an upright person who feels we may have been wronged in this matter, hence his inquiry." "He means well." Jian Shi rolled her eyes dramatically. "Well-meaning? Only you are so forgiving." Still speaking up for him. If any other girl were to be jilted, she wouldn't be so unperturbed. Shen Luan laughed lightly. "It wasn't exactly a broken engagement. Wasn't it our family that suggested it? Is your grandmother the type to lack decorum? It was merely a letter to inquire and probe the waters. Even if it were a broken engagement, there are protocols to follow, as one wouldn't want to harm the cordiality between the families. It's best to exchange pleasantries to ease the situation." The Xiao family, however, seemed to fear we might have a change of heart and hastily sent over the annulment letter. "I read that letter your grandmother allowed me to see. It infuriated me. I couldn't even eat properly for 2 meals. Jian Shi still felt aggrieved thinking about it. It felt as if they had been overly eager, as if they were the ones chasing after the Xiao family. Was there any need to sever ties so abruptly? Xiao Ran is a man and won't be affected by his reputation. But did they consider your feelings? Jin Shi's previous teasing demeanor had vanished. "I do not care why this Xiao Ran came to find you. I simply dislike seeing you grow too close to him. You must maintain a distance. The news of the broken engagement has spread. And if people see you two together, what will they think?" Shen Luan found it amusing to comfort her. "Do not worry, mother. I know my boundaries. Do you truly think your daughter is a celestial being? That everyone would be enamored? That cannot be." The two laughed together in the room, and Shen Luan thought that perhaps all mothers in the world regarded their daughters as treasures. It was rather amusing to misjudge Xiao Ran. He certainly held no interest in her. If not for her desire to uncover the truth behind her parents' deaths, he probably wouldn't have appeared before her at all. After Shen Luan moved out with Jin Shi, her status remained unaffected. Invitations continued to pour in, many from circles she had never engaged with in her past life, now becoming a part of her daily routine. "Has the lady from the Du family sent you another invitation?" Jin Shi observed the gilded invitation in Shen Luan's hand with a headache, having subtly hinted to her before that there was no rush regarding her marriage. Yet the lady from the Du family persistently invited her over. "The lady from the Du family seems quite fond of you. She has invited you multiple times, drawing you in for conversation with an exceedingly warm demeanor." Shen Luan, however, held a different perspective on this. "The daughter of the Du family has sent us an invitation, yet it may not necessarily be aimed at me. Mother, consider this. My brother's age is such that he is indeed of marrying age. But he would certainly never attend such an occasion. What can be done then, if not for you, mother, to bear a bit more of the burden?" Shen Luan chuckled softly while holding the invitation. "I had a suspicion last time that those who come to engage in warm conversations with you must surely have a suitable young lady at home. In my opinion, it is merely that my brother enjoys excessive attention. If you were to attend, there is no doubt it would be lively." Jian Shi realized this, and indeed, it is true. She found it somewhat amusing, having never considered that when Xiao was someone to be concerned about. It had slipped my mind, but if that is the case, then it is indeed necessary to go. Jian Shi turned to Shen Luan. "Have you inquired with Wen Xiao? What are his thoughts on the matter?" Boys of his age in Yancheng should be finalizing their engagements soon. Shen Luan's face displayed a timid expression. "I have not asked yet. Must I truly go and inquire? I feel I would be scolded." Jian Shi encouraged her with a gesture. "Should he punish you by making you write lines, I shall assist you." "That may not be necessary, for my brother is quite discerning. Last time he noticed and had me copy an entire book. The mere thought of it brings tears to my eyes, so, should I really go and ask?"